My name is Julia, a person known for her 99% seriousness. Yet here I am, standing outside my home, accompanied only by a solitary suitcase, hastily packed with my bare essentials. Clutched tightly in my hand are two ominous envelopes. It was on the cusp of early summer, the most enchanting season of the year, when I found myself abruptly ousted from my in-laws' residence. There was no forewarning, no hint of the impending storm. Enticed by the delightful aroma drifting from the kitchen, I completed my usual morning routine and descended the stairs, eager for breakfast. The tantalizing scent promised a feast, typical of my housemate's culinary prowess. Today, it seemed, breakfast was served American style. Brimming with anticipation, I pushed open the living room door, only to be greeted not by a sumptuous meal, but by an unexpected confrontation. "Julia, you deceived us," my mother-in-law's accusing voice pierced the air as tears welled in her eyes. Her words, laden with betrayal, echoed incoherently, accusing me of treachery and shattered trust. After delivering her accusations, my mother-in-law departed, leaving behind a lingering glare heavy with resentment. Meanwhile, my father-in-law remained, his gaze burning with simmering fury. "What's going on?" It was all I could muster, my confusion mounting. I couldn't fathom why my in-laws were suddenly treating me with such hostility. Just yesterday, we were on amicable terms, much like with my own parents. As I grappled with their inexplicable behavior, my husband Ryan, who had been silently consuming his breakfast, caught my eye. "Last night," he began, explaining that he had opted to spend the night at our other residence near his workplace, leading me to believe he wouldn't be present this morning. Had he returned home late last night? Desperate for clarity, I rushed to Ryan, seeking his assistance. "What's wrong with Mom and Dad?" My words caught in my throat just as I was about to utter, "They're behaving." But my attention shifted abruptly to Ryan, whose demeanor had taken a chilling turn. His gaze pierced through me, laden with accusation and contempt, a far cry from the warmth and kindness I was accustomed to. "Ryan, how could you?" The words spilled from his lips, dripping with venom. Gone was the gentle melody of his usual speech, replaced by a harshness I had never encountered before. This was the same Ryan who would surprise me with my favorite flowers whenever his work kept us apart. "I'm sorry. I truly wish we could still travel together," he continued, his words a stark departure from the sentiments he had expressed just a week prior. With a gesture to the secretary, who stood nearby, he signaled for action. "Take care of it," he instructed, the command delivered with an air of finality. "You've finally done it, Julia, haven't you?" His accusation hung heavy in the air, stabbing at my core. "Married me for the money, didn't you?" "What? You've taken my mother's money," I protested, disbelief lacing my words. "Wait, that's not true." The accusation hung heavy in the air, the enormity of the alleged sum sinking in. "And now you're trying to justify it." My father-in-law's voice was laced with scorn. "What? What on earth are you talking about, Dad? I swear, I didn't touch a penny of her money. Get out of this house." "Dad, what's happening?" I pleaded desperately for clarity, but received only a curt denial in response. It seemed I was being accused of embezzling a significant amount from my mother-in-law, a notion utterly unfounded in reality. I begged for understanding, for someone to believe me, but my pleas fell on deaf ears. A chill ran down my spine as the secretary reappeared, clutching a suitcase, likely containing my belongings. "Please, Ryan, listen to me," I implored, but he shook his head with a disappointed expression, as though delivering lines in a tragic play. He was convinced of my guilt. "These are the divorce papers," he stated matter-of-factly, thrusting them towards me. "Once you've signed them, send them back to me." "What? Why?" I exclaimed, my voice trembling with disbelief. "I can't live with someone solely interested in a family inheritance. It's the family's decision." Ryan's words cut through the air like icicles, sending shivers down my spine. "Now, leave." "It's not fair. I haven't done anything," I protested vehemently, but my pleas fell on deaf ears. Ryan's demeanor remained stoic as he commanded his secretary, "Ensure she never returns to this property." "What? What's happening?" "Stop." I struggled against the secretary's firm grip as he forcibly escorted me out, my suitcase in tow. Tears streamed down my face, mingling with the tumult of emotions swirling within me. Coming from humble beginnings, I knew the allure of wealth, but I was never one to resort to deceit. The grandeur of the mansion felt like a cruel contrast as I was unceremoniously ejected onto the street, barely half an hour after waking. Was this a nightmare? My mind raced, struggling to comprehend the surreal turn of events. Amidst the chaos, the imposing door slammed shut mercilessly. Just before it sealed me off completely, the secretary thrust another envelope into my hand, a final act of cruelty. "This is also from Mr. Ryan. Please take it." The secretary's voice broke through the tense silence. With a finality that matched the closing of the door, the lock clicked shut, sealing my fate. With trembling hands, I peered into the envelope, my heart sinking as I beheld its contents: a severance payment of $10,000. I had married Ryan 3 years prior, finding employment as an advisory accountant at the company where my father-in-law held the reins as CEO. Despite just passing my CPA exam, I was relegated to a subordinate role, more of an assistant to my colleagues out of pity. Then, one fateful day, everything changed. The pieces of the puzzle began to align in a way that didn't make sense. Something was amiss. Driven by a desire to prove myself as a competent CPA, I had delved into a task assigned to a colleague, only to uncover a web of deceit. My colleague had been manipulating the books, siphoning off hundreds of thousands of dollars. In that moment, a mixture of exhilaration and dread coursed through me. Yet I knew I couldn't turn a blind eye to such wrongdoing. Summoning my courage, I made the difficult decision to report the fraud to my father-in-law, the CEO. As someone deeply committed to honesty and integrity, turning a blind eye was never an option for me. Though the thought of reporting the fraud to the IRS crossed my mind, I hesitated. After all, such a drastic action would strip my colleague of their CPA status, a consequence I found difficult to reconcile with, especially after my own hard-won journey to becoming a CPA. My father-in-law, a shrewd businessman who had amassed a considerable fortune in a single generation, had been unwittingly targeted. "Thank you, Julia. We're indebted to you. Without your intervention, who knows how long they would have continued siphoning off funds." My father-in-law expressed his gratitude, his wife echoing his sentiments. I found myself celebrated as a hero, as if I had single-handedly saved the day. "Julia, if you're not involved with anyone at the moment, would you consider marrying our son?" The proposition caught me off guard, and I couldn't help but wonder if such flattery was commonplace among the wealthy. Though I laughed it off at the time, little did I know that my father-in-law's suggestion held genuine weight. Before I knew it, I found myself being introduced to their son, a man who praised me for safeguarding the family's assets. Bathed in their praise, I couldn't help but feel a sense of validation. After years of being criticized for my seriousness, it seemed that living authentically and earnestly had finally paid off. And in that moment, I couldn't help but feel a profound sense of happiness. As a trainee CPA, I had never imagined ascending to the role of official advisory accountant, let alone being appointed as personal secretary to Ryan, the CEO's son. Ryan embodied the archetype of privilege, perpetually optimistic with a laissez-faire attitude that initially grated on my meticulous nature. Yet, amidst his dependency on me, I discovered a sense of fulfillment in aiding him. "Ryan, you really need to leave for the business meeting soon," I reminded him, checking my watch. "I'll manage just fine. You should get going." "Are you sure you won't stress out the driver this time?" he teased, flashing a charming smile. "I've got everything under control," I assured him, ushering him towards the door. Perhaps he appreciated my attention to detail more than I had realized. Our relationship evolved from professional to romantic, much to the delight of my father-in-law, who had harbored hopes of our union. The wedding was met with resounding approval, and for 3 years, the dynamics between Ryan, myself, and my in-laws remained largely unchanged. The most significant shift came with my father-in-law's decision to pass the company's reins to Ryan. As preparations for his ascent to the boardroom accelerated, my mother-in-law and I found ourselves immersed in a whirlwind of meetings and social engagements. Tonight was meant to be no exception, with a business partner's anniversary party on the agenda. Instead, I found myself alone in a sterile hotel room, a stark departure from the anticipated festivities. In the heat of anger and frustration, the thought of retreating to my parents' home briefly crossed my mind. But the notion didn't sit right with me. If Ryan wanted a divorce, so be it. But as someone who prides herself on honesty and sincerity, leaving under a cloud of suspicion was unthinkable. Seated on the bed, I revisited the contents of the envelope, divorce papers, and a severance payment. Despite the wave of emotions threatening to overwhelm me, I fought to maintain composure. I needed clarity. With a steadying breath, I closed my eyes and reaffirmed to myself, I haven't taken a penny of my mother-in-law's money. That's a fact. If not me, then who? The rush of excitement and fear surged once more. Gathering the bundle of $10,000, I resolved to make good use of it. After a quick touch-up of my makeup, I made my way to the private detective's office. A week later, my phone rang. We have the results of the investigation. I arrived at the office greeted by a stack of papers on the reception table. The report, thicker than anticipated, sent a shiver down my spine as I flipped through its contents, my hands trembling with anticipation. What? Ha! Each revelation in the report left me reeling, my head spinning as I absorbed the shocking truth. Exiting the building, I was greeted by an unpleasantly brisk breeze, a stark contrast to the turmoil swirling within me. Collapsing beneath the shade of a nearby street tree, I grappled with the weight of the newfound knowledge. Passers-by cast curious glances my way, oblivious to the internal battle raging within me. With resolve coursing through my veins, I made my way to my in-laws' home, determined to confront them. Why was she allowed inside? My father-in-law demanded, his voice laced with disdain as he berated the maid. Taking a deep breath, I stepped forward, presenting the signed divorce papers. I've brought these, I stated firmly. You instructed me to mail them. If you seek a divorce, I won't stand in your way. But I refuse to be labeled a thief, I continued, my voice unwavering. Snatching the papers from my grasp, my father-in-law turned to leave. But I refused to let him go without a final declaration. I demand an apology from all of you, I asserted, my words echoing through the room. If you're unwilling to acknowledge your wrongdoing, I'm prepared to pursue this matter in court. As the prospect of legal action loomed, my father-in-law halted in his tracks. I was pleased when you accepted me, despite my humble background. I held genuine affection for you and your mother-in-law, he confessed, his voice tinged with remorse. Summoning my courage, I drew in a deep breath, my fists clenched at my sides. Then, with a measured exhale, I spoke. I'm telling you, I'm innocent. Do you understand? Let me be clear. I didn't do anything, I reiterated, striving to maintain composure. What? What do you mean? I didn't. My mother-in-law's voice, seemingly emerging from the shadows, pierced the tense atmosphere with confusion etched across her features. I mean exactly what I said, I affirmed, extracting the investigation report from my bag and passing it to her. Please take a look. What? What's this? What's going on? Their eyes widened as they devoured the contents of the report, their expressions teetering on the brink of disbelief. The person responsible for stealing my mother-in-law's money, it was Ryan, I revealed, the weight of the truth heavy in my words. Before our marriage, Ryan had developed a reckless habit of overspending. He used to justify it by saying, "We have enough family wealth to live extravagantly for a lifetime." He indulged in frequent trips abroad, particularly enjoying gambling, often wagering hundreds of thousands of dollars at a time. Even his own parents had grown increasingly concerned, implementing measures to curb his access to their funds. They admonished Ryan, urging him to earn his own income. However, old habits die hard, and Ryan, consumed by his penchant for extravagance, sought out alternative means to sustain his lifestyle. That's when he concocted the embezzlement scheme that I ultimately uncovered. Ryan had manipulated my former colleague, who served as my father-in-law's accounting consultant, into falsifying the books. Mistakenly attributing the embezzlement solely to my former colleague, I reported it to my father-in-law without probing deeper, never uncovering the true mastermind. In reality, all the embezzled funds were lining Ryan's pockets. When the truth about my former colleague's embezzlement came to light, Ryan and his parents expressed gratitude towards me, but beneath their facade of appreciation, I sensed a simmering resentment. Was there a romantic involvement between the accountant and Ryan? It seems more like an affair, doesn't it? After all, she was married at the time, someone speculated. Nevertheless, Ryan professed his love for her, convincing her to embezzle funds for their future together. Another voice chimed in. As a consequence of her actions, my former colleague was terminated from her position and faced divorce from her husband, who had reached his breaking point. Despite obediently complying with Ryan's selfish request to keep his involvement under wraps, he ultimately wedded me. His persuasion tactic was clear: distract his parents by marrying a financially prudent partner like myself, thereby easing their suspicions and enabling him to continue his scheming. And indeed, his plan unfolded seamlessly. With my reputation for uncovering discrepancies, my in-laws relaxed their vigilance regarding Ryan's extravagant spending, simply because I was his wife. "Mother-in-law, why did you believe I stole your money?" I questioned, my voice tinged with disbelief. "Ryan told me he entrusted you with my card, Julia," she confessed, avoiding my gaze. I felt a pang of betrayal as her words sank in. "Ryan, he's been taking his responsibilities seriously lately, and I thought there might be occasions where it wouldn't be convenient to pay in cash, so I allowed him to carry my credit card. But then he said, I mustn't use it recklessly, so we'll have Julia manage it. And so, her voice trailed off, her expression clouded with regret. So, because of that, I was accused of theft. I interjected bitterly. Just to clarify, Ryan never mentioned any of this to me. Caught off guard by the realization of her son's deception, my mother-in-law's features fell slack with disbelief. "By the way, mother-in-law, have you read about what your stolen money was used for?" I pressed, seeking to redirect the conversation. I don't understand anything anymore," she admitted, her voice laden with confusion and distress. My mother-in-law's voice trembled, barely audible over the weight of her emotions as tears welled up in her eyes. I returned the report to them, bracing myself for their reaction. "The purchase of a condominium," my mother-in-law murmured, her voice laden with disbelief. "Let me see that," my father-in-law interjected, his brows furrowed in confusion. "But Ryan already has another house near his office. Why would he buy a condo for the senior accountant?" It's becoming clear now. Ryan has been entangled with her all along. Lately, he's been spending an unusual amount of time at the other house, likely staying with her. Ryan has always been with that woman. He loved her more than he ever loved me, Julia, my mother-in-law confessed, her words heavy with heartbreak. I remained composed, devoid of emotion, having already processed the nauseating contents of the report countless times before this moment. It appears Ryan has been indulging in quite the affair with the senior accountant. They even frequent underground casinos, I added matter-of-factly. "Underground casinos? Please take a look at the last page," my mother-in-law urged, a glimmer of hope flickering in her eyes. My father-in-law frantically flipped through the pages of the report, his brows furrowed in concern. "What's this staggering amount?" he exclaimed, his voice tinged with disbelief. "He's deeply involved with the underground casino. It seems he'll be grappling with debt for the foreseeable future," I explained solemnly. "Underground casino." My father-in-law's voice trailed off as he sank to the floor, overcome with shock. "Just to be certain, none of our other cards have been compromised, correct?" I inquired, prompting my father-in-law into action. "Ha!" His eyes widened in realization as he rushed to the nearest telephone, panic evident in his movements. "Stop everything. Cancel that card immediately." His urgent command reverberated throughout the house. Later, I received a formal apology from my in-laws. They expressed regret for concealing their son's extravagant spending and his affair. While I appreciated their honesty, I couldn't help but feel a pang of disappointment. Their apology seemed incomplete without addressing the hurt they caused me. Nevertheless, I handed them the completed divorce papers. With a small nod, I began to gather my belongings, ready to leave. But as they pleaded for me to stay, their sudden change in demeanor caught me off guard. Just a week ago, they had treated me like a criminal. "I'm sorry, but isn't it a bit late for that?" I interrupted, my voice tinged with frustration. "I loved you both and considered you family, but you disregarded my feelings and opinions. Do you have any idea how hurtful that was for me?" Despite my efforts to remain composed, a solitary tear betrayed my emotions, quickly followed by a cascade of tears streaming down my cheeks. "Julia." The divorce papers lay before us, a stark reminder of the irreparable rift between us. "This divorce is what your son desires. Shouldn't we respect his wishes?" It was evident that he had moved on with someone else. After composing myself and injecting a final touch of sarcasm, an abrupt alarm pierced the silence, jolting us all. Startled by the sudden noise, I furrowed my brow in confusion, only to have my father-in-law grasp my wrist urgently. "Hey, what's going on? What are you doing?" I questioned, taken aback by his sudden urgency. "You should come too, honey," he insisted, leading me outside to the garden. There, the gate that had shut me out just a week ago stood before us, and we heard a voice from the other side. "Hey, the gate won't open. Is anyone home?" Ryan's frustrated voice echoed through the gate, followed by the sound of him banging on it vigorously. What's happening? My car won't start either. This is ridiculous. Ryan's frustration was palpable as the annoying alarm persisted, refusing to cease its blaring. Listen closely, Ryan, my father-in-law began, his tone firm and unwavering. Huh? Dad, can you hear me? My key isn't working. Can you unlock it from your side? Ryan's voice crackled through the intercom, tinged with confusion. I told you to listen, Ryan, my father-in-law's voice boomed over the intercom. What? What's going on? Ryan's tone faltered, sensing the shift in his father's demeanor. You have no right to open this gate, my father-in-law declared firmly. What? Why would you say that? Ryan's voice rose in disbelief. Isn't it obvious? I didn't think you could be so oblivious. We're aware of everything. All of it, my father-in-law continued, his voice unwavering. Is Mom there too? Ryan's voice trembled with uncertainty. Ryan, Julia meant the world to us, but you're a different story. We want nothing to do with you ever again, my father-in-law declared resolutely. What? What's happening? Mom, are you there? Please say something, Ryan pleaded desperately. We know that you framed Julia. We know about the embezzlement. We know about your affair and your debts. We know everything, my father-in-law stated, his voice filled with conviction. Wait a minute, where did you get such absurd ideas? Stop spreading lies. Ryan's voice cracked with indignation. Ryan's frantic protests continued, but to no avail. Anxiety gnawed at me as I wondered if his parents would be swayed by his words and doubt me once again. However, my fears were unfounded. I trust Julia. So do I, Dad, his mother interjected firmly. Mom, Ryan's voice wavered, betraying his disbelief. We sincerely apologize. Julia, would you please consider taking my position? His father implored. What? Hey, is Julia there too? Ryan's voice erupted in anger, reverberating through the air. He seemed to be causing quite a commotion. However, his resistance was short-lived as security personnel arrived to calm him down. In the end, I agreed to my father-in-law's proposal, but with one condition: I will always be honest. Can you trust me unconditionally? They both nodded solemnly. A year later. Do you really think I'm cut out for this executive role? I hesitated, lingering in front of the executive office door. My father-in-law gave me a reassuring pat on the shoulder. Despite my divorce from Ryan, I still addressed the CEO as Dad, as we had mutually agreed upon. Julia, what our company truly needs is someone with your integrity and sincerity. It's a perfect fit for you, don't you think? He offered, his smile warm and encouraging. However, I couldn't resist a slightly mischievous question. Do you ever regret letting Ryan go? He should be the one stepping into this role, shouldn't he? Since the incident, my in-laws had distanced themselves from Ryan. Initially, he would often come pleading for financial assistance, but once he realized they wouldn't comply, he stopped. The son who had vanished under the weight of enormous debt. I wondered if he was still with that senior. Ryan let out a small, lonely sigh, but Ryan isn't the one meant for this position. The responsibility was too much for him. We're the ones to blame for indulging him too much, my father-in-law admitted. Dad, I murmured sympathetically. Hey, don't look so disheartened. Stand tall and proud, he encouraged. Yes, I replied with newfound determination, reaching for the handle of the executive office door. As it swung open effortlessly, I stepped inside, ready to embrace my new role.
The weight of my father's casket seemed lighter than the burden of disappointment I carried that day. Rain pelted the black umbrellas around me as we lowered him into the ground, but I barely noticed. I was too focused on my brother Zane's hand on my mother's shoulder, his perfectly pressed suit, and that familiar smug expression I'd grown to despise. My name is Tabitha, and I spent 29 years trying to earn my father's approval. Now he was gone, and I'd never get the chance. The reading of the will shall commence in the study, Logan, our family lawyer, announced as mourners began dispersing. His voice carried the same clinical detachment he'd maintained throughout the service. I followed the small procession into my childhood home, my heels clicking against the hardwood floors. The study still smelled like Dad's cigars and leather-bound books. Mom settled into his old armchair, while Zane perched on the desk's edge like he already owned it. I chose to stand. Shall we begin? Logan adjusted his glasses and pulled out a thick envelope. "Get on with it," Zane said, checking his watch. "I have a business meeting at 4. Mom shot him an adoring look. "Always the dedicated one, just like your father." I bit my tongue so hard I tasted blood. Dedicated. Zane hadn't visited Dad once during his final months of chemotherapy. I was the one who drove him to appointments, managed his medications, and held his hand through the worst nights. Logan cleared his throat and began reading. I, Richard West, being of sound mind. The next 10 minutes were a blur of legal jargon until the words that changed everything. "To my son, Zane, I leave my entire estate, including the family business, all properties, and financial holdings." The room went silent. I waited for the "and to my daughter" part, but it never came. "That's it?" I heard myself ask. "There must be more." Logan shook his head. "I'm afraid that's all, Miss Tabitha." "Well, that's settled then." Zane stood up, straightening his tie. "I'll have my assistant contact you about the paperwork." "Honey," Mom reached for my hand, her voice dripping with false sympathy. "Your father knew what he was doing. Zane has the business experience to handle the estate." I yanked my hand away. "Business experience? He's run every venture he's touched into the ground. Dad knew that." Now, Zane smirked. "Don't be bitter, little sister. I'll make sure you're taken care of." "Like hell you will." I turned to Logan. "This can't be legal. I want to contest the will." Logan shifted uncomfortably. "You can try, but everything appears to be in order." I stormed out of the study, but not before catching a snippet of conversation that made me freeze. "The Jensen account," Logan whispered to Zane. "Your father left specific instructions about—" "I know how to handle my father's business," Zane cut him off sharply. Something in Logan's tone made my skin prickle. I lingered just outside the door, straining to hear more. "The debts need to be—" "That's enough, Logan." Zane's voice had an edge I'd never heard before. I said I'll handle it. I pulled out my phone and texted Michael. "Need to talk, now, it's bad." His response was immediate. "Corner booth at Joey's in 20. On my way." As I grabbed my purse, Mom appeared in the hallway. "Tabitha, don't make a scene. Your father wanted—" "Don't." I held up my hand. "Don't tell me what Dad wanted. He had months to tell me himself, but he chose not to. Just like he chose to leave me nothing." "You're being dramatic. Zane will take care of everything." I laughed bitterly. "Yeah, just like he took care of Dad during his treatment. Or like he took care of that tech startup he crashed last year. That wasn't his fault. The market. Save it." I headed for the door. "I need some air." As I stepped outside, the rain had stopped, but dark clouds still loomed overhead. My phone buzzed with a text from Jamal at work. "Sorry about your dad. Take all the time you need." I typed back. "Actually, I'll be in tomorrow. Need to focus on something else." Walking to my car, I caught sight of Zane through the study window. Already sitting in Dad's chair, feet up on the desk. The familiar anger rose in my throat. But this time, something else came with it. Determination. I'd overheard enough to know there were problems lurking beneath the surface of Dad's perfect legacy. And if Zane was going to crash and burn, I wanted a front row seat. But first, I needed to talk to Michael. He'd help me figure out what that Jensen account was all about, and why it had Logan so worried. Something told me I'd just stumbled onto the tip of a very large iceberg. Joey's diner hadn't changed in the 15 years Michael and I had been meeting there. The same cracked leather booths, the same flickering neon sign, the same coffee that tasted like it had been brewing since morning. "He left you nothing." Michael pushed his untouched plate of fries toward me. "Not even a token inheritance." I grabbed a fry and dunked it in ketchup. "Nothing." But that's not even the weird part. I overheard Logan talking about some Jensen account, and Zane shut him down fast. Like, suspiciously fast. "Jensen." Michael pulled out his phone and started typing. As my best friend and a financial analyst, he had access to information most people didn't. "Give me a minute." The waitress stopped by to refill our coffee cups. "You okay, honey? You look like you've been crying." "Just buried my father today, Rita." She squeezed my shoulder. This one's on the house then. Michael looked up from his phone. Found something. Jensen Industrial was one of your dad's biggest clients. They filed for bankruptcy protection last year. And your dad's company was their primary creditor. We're talking millions in outstanding payments. I felt the blood drain from my face. So when Dad left everything to Zane, he also left him a massive financial nightmare. Michael leaned forward. Tabitha, this could sink the entire company if it's not handled right. My phone buzzed. Mom's name flashed on the screen. I declined the call. She's probably wondering why I'm not home consoling Zane, I muttered. Speaking of home, Michael said carefully, what are you going to do about the mortgage payments? I groaned, dropping my head onto the table. I'd been helping Mom with the house payments since Dad got sick. I can't just stop, she'll lose the house. The house Zane now owns? Yeah, but the same Zane who's never contributed a dime. I know. I sat up straight. But I can't let Mom end up homeless because my brother's an idiot. The bell above the diner door chimed. Jamal, my colleague from work, walked in, scanning the room until he spotted us. Hope you don't mind, I told Michael. I asked him to join. He might have some insights. Jamal slid into the booth beside Michael. Sorry about crashing your meeting. How are you holding up? Been better, but I need your business brain right now. I filled Jamal in on the situation. His expression grew more concerned with each detail. Look, he said finally, I shouldn't tell you this, but there's an opening for senior project manager at the firm. The position reports directly to me. My heart skipped. That's double my current salary. You'd earn every penny. It's high pressure, but, he shrugged, you're the best person for it. She'll take it, Michael interjected. I can speak for myself. I shot him a look, then turned to Jamal. I'll take it. Good, because I already put your name forward. Jamal checked his watch. Interviews Tuesday at 9 a.m. Don't be late. As Jamal left, Michael raised an eyebrow. Well, that's convenient timing. What do you mean? Tabitha, you've been carrying your family's financial burden for years. Maybe it's time to let them deal with their own mess. My phone buzzed again. This time it was Zane. Need Dad's office keys. Bring them home. I typed back, in the top drawer of his desk. Already checked. Not there. I smiled, feeling the weight of the keys in my jacket pocket. Must be lost then. Don't play games, Tabitha. I have work to do. So do I. Starting Tuesday. I switched off my phone and looked at Michael. Want to help me clean out my desk this weekend? I have a feeling I'm going to ace that interview. That's my girl, he grinned. But what about the Jensen account? I'm going to do exactly nothing. I straightened up, feeling lighter than I had in months. Zane wanted it all. He can have it all, including the problems. And your mom's mortgage? I sighed, stirring my coffee. I'll keep paying it, not for Zane, but because I refuse to let his incompetence hurt her. Besides, I smiled grimly, when everything falls apart, she'll need somewhere to live. Michael raised his coffee cup. To karma. To karma. I clinked my cup against his, and to finally letting go. As we left the diner, I felt my phone vibrate again. Probably Zane, still looking for those keys. Let him look. I had a future to plan, and for once, it didn't involve cleaning up anyone else's mess but my own. Congratulations on the promotion, Jamal said, dropping a stack of files on my new desk. Now for your first crisis. I'd barely finished arranging my family photo, the only one where Dad looked proud of me, taken at my college graduation, when reality came crashing in. The Jensen account, I asked, already knowing the answer. Your brother missed this morning's meeting. Third time this month, they've tried to negotiate terms. Jamal leaned against my desk. Word is, they're threatening to take their remaining assets elsewhere. My hands trembled as I opened the first file. The numbers were worse than I'd imagined. Dad's company had extended Jensen Industrial nearly $12 million in credit over the past 2 years. My phone lit up with Mom's message. Mortgage payment is due tomorrow. Zane says he'll handle it this month. Everything okay? Jamal asked. Fine. I pulled up my banking app. Just need to make a quick transfer. The same transfer you've made every month for the past year. I looked up sharply. How did you? I pay attention. He crossed his arms. You know, letting them fail isn't the same as causing them to fail. Before I could respond, my office door burst open. Zane stood there, looking distinctly unput together in a wrinkled suit. Well, well, he sneered. Someone's moving up in the world. This is a private office, I said coldly. You need an appointment. Jamal straightened up. I'll give you 2 a minute. As soon as the door closed, Zane slumped into the chair across from me. I need access to Dad's private accounts. Why would I have that? Because you were his little secretary during the end. He ran his hands through his disheveled hair. There has to be more money somewhere. Emergency funds, offshore accounts, something. I kept my face neutral, even as satisfaction bloomed in my chest. Having trouble with the Jensen account. How do you know about? Never mind. Look, I just need to buy some time. Like you bought time with the mortgage payment. I pulled up my transfer confirmation. The one you just told Mom you'd handle. His face reddened. That's different. I'm dealing with bigger issues here. Clearly, I stood up. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have actual work to do. Dad would have helped me, he said quietly. Dad's not here. I opened my office door, and neither are his secret accounts. After he left, Jamal returned with 2 cups of coffee. Rough conversation. Nothing I can't handle. I accepted the coffee gratefully. But I need a favor. Can you get me the contact information for Jensen Industrial's CFO? Planning to save the family business after all. No, I smiled. Just making sure I have a front row seat when it burns. That evening, I met Michael at our usual spot in Joey's. You should have seen him, I said, recounting Zane's visit. Complete mess. Dad would have been mortified. Speaking of mortified, Michael slid a newspaper across the table. Page 6. The headline made my coffee turn sour. West Industries faces multiple lawsuits from creditors. It's starting, I whispered. You sure you want to watch this happen? I thought about the years of being overlooked, of Zane's smug superiority, of Mom's blind devotion to her precious son. Yes, I said firmly, I need to see this through. My phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. Miss West, this is Thomas from Jensen Industrial. Heard you were asking about us. Can we meet? I showed Michael the message. Careful, he warned. Don't get pulled into their mess. I won't, I typed back. Coffee tomorrow, 8 a.m. The response was immediate. Perfect. There's something you should know about your father's last deal with us. Later that night, as I was leaving the office, I found Logan waiting by my car. You've been busy, he said, holding up a folder, accessing your father's private files, contacting Jensen Industrial. How did you? I've been your father's lawyer for 30 years. I notice things. He handed me the folder, like how he transferred a significant sum to a private account 3 days before he died, an account only you have access to. My hands shook as I opened the folder. Inside was a letter in Dad's handwriting. My dearest Tabitha, if you're reading this, you've already figured out what's coming. I'm trusting you to make the right choice when the time comes. Love, Dad. I looked up, but Logan was already walking away. The right choice about what? I called after him. He turned, his silhouette dark against the parking lot lights. I think you'll know when the time comes. Just remember, sometimes the best revenge is simply stepping aside and letting nature take its course. I clutched the folder to my chest, my mind racing. Tomorrow's meeting with Thomas from Jensen just became a lot more interesting. Thomas from Jensen Industrial looked nothing like I expected. Instead of a suit-clad executive, I found myself sitting across from a tired-looking man in his 50s, wearing a worn cardigan and nursing his 3rd cup of coffee. Your father was a good man, he said, stirring another sugar packet into his cup. But that last deal, it wasn't like him. What do you mean? He knew we were sinking. Everyone did. But he kept extending credit, kept promising things would turn around. Thomas leaned forward. Then, 3 days before he died, he called me, said everything was arranged, that you would understand when the time came. My hand instinctively touched the folder in my bag. Did he mention a private account? No, but he did say his son wouldn't be able to handle what was coming. Thomas smiled sadly. Guess he was right about that. Before I could respond, my phone lit up with Mom's call. I declined it, but another immediately followed. Sorry, I told Thomas. I should take this. Tabitha, Mom's voice was shrill. Where are you? There are people at the house. What people? Men in suits. They're talking about repossession. Zane isn't answering his phone, and I'll be right there. I hung up and looked at Thomas apologetically. He waved me off. Go. But remember what your father said. When everything falls apart, don't try to catch the pieces. I broke several speed limits getting to my childhood home. 2 black sedans were parked in the driveway, and Mom stood on the porch, wringing her hands. They say we owe money, she said as I rushed up. But that's impossible, Zane assured me. Mrs. West, a man in a dark suit, emerged from the house. We've completed our initial inventory. Given the circumstances, you have 48 hours to remove personal belongings. Personal belongings. Mom's voice rose. This is my home. Mom, I took her arm gently. Let's go inside and talk. In the kitchen, Mom collapsed into a chair. I don't understand. Zane said everything was fine. He said, Zane's been lying. I pulled out my phone and showed her the newspaper article. The company's failing. Has been for months. That's ridiculous. Your father would never. Dad knew. I took out the folder Logan had given me. He saw this coming. The front door slammed. Zane stormed into the kitchen, his face red. Who called the creditors? Was it you? He jabbed a finger at me. No, but I'm not surprised they're here. I stood my ground. What did you think would happen when you ignored their calls? I was handling it. Like you handled the mortgage. I pulled up my banking app. The one I've been paying for the past year while you pretended everything was fine. Mom's head snapped up. What? Oh, you didn't know. I turned to her. Your perfect son hasn't contributed a dime. I've been keeping this roof over your head. Is this true? Mom asked Zane. He threw his hands up. I was investing in the business. Someone had to keep Dad's legacy alive while she was off playing corporate climber. Playing? I laughed bitterly. I just made senior project manager. Meanwhile, you've run Dad's company into the ground in less than 3 months. Enough. Mom slammed her hand on the table. Zane, tell me exactly what's going on with the company. For the first time, I saw real fear in my brother's eyes. Mom, there were complications. We're bankrupt, I said flatly. Aren't we, Zane? His silence was answer enough. Mom's face crumpled. But where will I live? I took a deep breath. I have a spare room until we figure something out. You? Mom looked at me like she was seeing me for the first time. But Zane needs to deal with the mess he's made. I gathered my keys. Pack what you need, Mom. I'll be back in 2 hours to help you move. As I walked out, Zane grabbed my arm. Wait, that private account Dad mentioned to Thomas. You have access to it, don't you? I pulled away. Goodbye, Zane. Tabitha, please, just a loan to tide things over. I can fix this. I paused at the door, remembering Dad's letter. Make the right choice when the time comes. You know what, Zane? For once in your life, you're going to face the consequences of your actions. And I'm going to watch. I left him standing there, surrounded by the ruins of the empire he'd inherited. In my rearview mirror, I could see Mom on the porch, her face in her hands. It hurt. But sometimes healing only starts after everything falls apart. My phone buzzed with a text from Michael. You okay? No, I typed back, but I will be. Living with Mom was like sharing space with a ghost. She spent most days staring out my apartment window, clutching her phone, waiting for calls from Zane that never came. He's just busy, she'd say, trying to sort everything out. I was arranging breakfast when Jamal called. Turn on the news, Channel 7. The cereal box slipped from my hand when I saw the headline, West Industries files for bankruptcy. CEO faces criminal investigation. Mom, I called out, but she was already there, eyes glued to the screen. Sources say the CEO, Zane West, may have misappropriated company funds, the reporter announced. Multiple employees report missing paychecks and unauthorized account transfers. Mom's coffee mug shattered on the floor. This can't be happening. My phone exploded with notifications. Michael. You seeing this? Jamal. Meeting in 20. Big news. And finally, Zane. Need to talk. Emergency. I have to go to work, I told Mom, grabbing my keys. But your brother will have to handle this himself. The office was buzzing when I arrived. Jamal waited by my door with a stack of papers. Jensen Industrial wants to meet, he said, as I hung up my coat. They're offering to buy what's left of West Industries' assets. Why are you telling me this? Because they specifically asked for you to handle the negotiations. He dropped the papers on my desk. Apparently, Thomas spoke highly of you. Before I could respond, my office door burst open. Zane stood there, looking worse than I'd ever seen him. His suit was wrinkled, his eyes wild. You have to help me, he pleaded. They're saying I committed fraud. Did you? His silence spoke volumes. Get out of my office, I said quietly. Tabitha, please. Dad's account, I know you have access. If I could just… Still looking for handouts, I stood up. Even now. You don't understand. They're talking about prison. Maybe you should have thought about that before stealing from your employees. Jamal cleared his throat. Should I call security? No need. I walked to my brother. You wanted it all, Zane. The company, the responsibility, Dad's legacy. Well, congratulations. It's all yours, including the consequences. Mom will never forgive you for this, he spat. Mom needs to wake up and see you for who you really are. After he left, Jamal handed me a tissue. I hadn't realized I was crying. The Jensen meeting is at 2, he said gently. If you're up for it. I wiped my eyes. I'll be there. During lunch, I met Michael at Joey's. The TV above the counter was still playing news about West Industries. You okay? He asked. Better than I expected. I stirred my coffee. It's almost a relief, watching it all finally fall apart. And the private account your dad left you? Still untouched? I smiled. Dad knew this would happen. He was giving me a choice. Save Zane or let him fall. Looks like you chose. No, I corrected. Zane chose. Every time he lied, every time he stole, every time he refused to take responsibility. I'm just refusing to clean up his mess. My phone buzzed. Mom, please talk to your brother. He's desperate. Speaking of messes, I showed Michael the text. She's still defending him. Give her time. Reality's a harsh teacher, but an effective one. The Jensen meeting that afternoon was brief. Thomas laid out their offer, pennies on the dollar, for what remained of Dad's company. Your father would understand, he said, as I reviewed the papers. Sometimes things need to fall apart completely before they can be rebuilt. I signed the documents, feeling a strange mix of sadness and liberation. That evening, I found Mom watching the news again. Zane's face filled the screen as he pushed through a crowd of reporters. I could have helped him, she whispered. No, Mom, you helped him too much already. We all did. She turned to me, tears in her eyes. When did you get so strong? I've always been strong. You just never noticed because you were too busy watching Zane. My phone lit up with a text from Logan. Your father would be proud. The account is yours to use, as you see fit now. I thought about Dad's letter, about making the right choice. Maybe the right choice wasn't about saving or destroying. Maybe it was about letting things follow their natural course. Mom, I said, want to help me make dinner? She nodded, finally turning off the TV. As we worked side by side in the kitchen, I realized some things had to break completely before they could start to heal. The knock came at midnight. I knew who it was before I opened the door. Zane stood in my hallway, soaked from the rain, holding a duffel bag. Gone was the expensive suit. replaced by jeans and a worn sweater. Gone was the smug smile, replaced by desperate eyes. They froze my accounts, he said quietly. All of them. Behind me, Mom appeared in her robe. Zane, baby, what happened? Not now, Mom. I blocked her path to him. Why are you here, Zane? I need a place to stay, just for a few days, until what? Until the fraud charges disappear. Until Dad's company magically rebuilds itself. Mom tried to push past me. Tabitha, he's your brother. Yes, and he's also under investigation for stealing from his employees. I turned to her. Remember Carl, Dad's old maintenance guy? Zane stole his pension. Zane's face reddened. I was going to pay it back. With what money? I stepped into the hallway, pulling my door shut behind me. The money you gambled away, or the money you spent on that yacht. I made mistakes, okay? His voice cracked. Is that what you want to hear? I screwed up. I'm sorry. Sorry doesn't pay back the people you stole from. He slumped against the wall. What do you want from me, Tabitha? I want you to grow up. I want you to face consequences for once in your life. But mostly, I took a deep breath. I want you to leave. Where am I supposed to go? The same place Dad's employees went when they couldn't pay their rent because of you. My phone buzzed. A text from Michael. News vans outside your building. Heads up. They followed me, Zane admitted. The reporters. I didn't know where else to go. I heard the elevator ding. Voices and footsteps approached. Mr. West, can you comment on the allegations? Is it true you embezzled millions? Where have you been hiding? I grabbed Zane's arm and pulled him inside my apartment, slamming the door on the shouted questions. Thank you, he breathed. Don't. You're not staying. I pulled out my phone and dialed. Jamal? Remember that favor you owe me? I need it now. 20 minutes later, Jamal's car pulled up behind my building. The reporters were still camped out front. He'll take you to a motel, I told Zane. One night. That's all you get. Mom grabbed my arm. You can't send him away. Watch me. I handed Zane some cash. After tonight, you're on your own. The private account. He tried one last time. Dad left it to you for a reason. Yes, he did. To see what I do with it. I opened the back door. And what I'm doing is letting you face reality. As Zane walked toward Jamal's car, Mom called out, Wait. We both turned. Did you really steal Carl's pension? For the first time, Zane couldn't meet her eyes. Mom, yes or no? Yes. The silence that followed was deafening. Mom's face crumpled, but not in the way it usually did when Zane was in trouble. This was different. This was realization. Go, she whispered. After Zane left, Mom sat at my kitchen table, staring at her hands. I enabled him, didn't I? We all did, Dad included. But you didn't. She looked up at me. You saw him clearly, all along. My phone buzzed again. Logan. Police want to question Zane tomorrow. Thought you should know. What happens now? Mom asked. Now. I sat across from her. Now we let justice run its course. Will he go to prison? Probably. She nodded slowly. Maybe that's what he needs. Mom, I've spent so many years making excuses for him, defending him, but stealing from Carl? She shook her head. Your father trusted those people. They were like family. I reached across the table and took her hand. You know what Dad told me in his letter? He said to make the right choice when the time came. I think this is what he meant. Letting Zane face consequences. Letting the truth come out, all of it. My phone lit up with a news alert. Former West Industries CEO. To face criminal charges, employees speak out. Mom squeezed my hand. I'm sorry I never saw how strong you were. I'm sorry it took all this for you to see it. Outside, the reporters were still waiting, hoping for a glimpse of Zane. But he was gone, finally facing the reality he'd spent so long avoiding. And for the first time, neither Mom nor I was trying to shield him from it. The courthouse steps were crowded with reporters when I arrived. 3 months had passed since Zane's midnight visit. and today was his sentencing hearing. Miss West, they thrust microphones at me. Will you be testifying against your brother? Any comment on the plea deal? What about the missing pension funds? I pushed through them, spotting Michael waiting by the entrance. Ready for this? He asked. No, but it needs to be done. Inside, Mom sat in the front row, looking smaller than I'd ever seen her. She'd aged years in the past few months. He wants to see you, she said, as I sat beside her. Before the hearing. No. Tabitha, please. He's different now. He understands. Mrs. West, a bailiff approached. Your son is asking for you. Mom looked at me pleadingly. I nodded. Go. He needs at least one of us to believe in him still. While she was gone, Logan slid into the seat next to me. The account, he said quietly. Have you decided what to do with it? Actually, yes. I handed him a folder. I want to set up a trust for the employees who lost their pensions. He smiled. Your father would approve. I know. The courtroom doors opened. Zane entered in an orange jumpsuit, hands cuffed in front of him. Mom followed, wiping her eyes. All rise. The judge entered, and the proceedings began. I barely heard the formal charges being read. My focus was on Zane, who kept turning to look at me. Finally, the judge spoke directly to him. Mr. West, before I pass sentence, would you like to address the court? Zane stood. Yes, Your Honor. He turned to face the gallery. I've prepared a statement. My stomach clenched. Here it came. More excuses, more manipulation. I'm guilty, he began. Not just of the charges, but of betraying every person in this room. My father built his company on trust and respect. I destroyed it with greed and lies. The room went silent. My sister, his voice cracked, tried to warn me. She saw what I was becoming, but I was too arrogant to listen. And now people like Carl, who worked for my father for 30 years, have lost everything because of me. I felt Mom's hand grip mine. I don't deserve forgiveness, Zane continued. I deserve whatever sentence you give me. But I want everyone to know, especially my sister, that I finally understand what Dad was trying to teach us. Success isn't about power or money. It's about integrity. The judge nodded. Thank you, Mr. West. Please be seated. What followed was a blur of legal terms, but the final sentence cut through clearly. 5 years in federal prison, with possibility of parole after 3. Additionally, you are ordered to make full restitution to all affected employees. Mom started crying. I sat perfectly still. As they led Zane away, he caught my eye one last time. No pleading, no manipulation, just acceptance. Outside, the reporters swarmed again, but Jamal appeared out of nowhere, creating a path through them. Your car's ready, he said. Unless you want to make a statement. Actually, I do. I turned to face the cameras. West Industries was built on trust. While that trust was broken, we're taking steps to make it right. Starting today, we're establishing a trust fund for all employees who lost their pensions. It won't erase what happened, but it's a start. Later, at Joey's, Michael raised his coffee cup. To justice. To consequences, I corrected. And to finally being free of them. Mom looked up from her untouched pie. What happens now? Now, I pulled out Dad's letter, worn from countless readings. Now we rebuild, not the company, that's gone, but ourselves. And Zane has 3 years to figure out who he is without anyone protecting him. My phone buzzed, a text from Carl. Saw the news about the trust fund. Thank you. You know, Mom said slowly, your father used to say you had his business sense. I never understood what he meant until now. Better late than never, I smiled. As we left the diner, I spotted Logan waiting by my car. One last thing, he said, handing me an envelope. Your father left instructions to give you this after everything was settled. Inside was a single photo, Dad and me at my first business competition in high school. On the back, he'd written, to my daughter, who always knew the value of doing what's right, not what's easy. The company was Zane's inheritance, but my legacy, that was always yours. I looked up, but Logan was already walking away, disappearing into the evening crowd. Behind me, Mom and Michael waited patiently. "Ready to go?" Michael asked. "Yeah," I tucked the photo into my pocket. "I'm ready." The prison visiting room smelled like cheap coffee and disinfectant. I sat at the metal table, watching Zane approach in his orange jumpsuit. He looked thinner, his usual swagger replaced by a careful humility. "I didn't expect you to come," he said, sitting down. "Neither did I." I placed a manila envelope on the table. "But there's something you need to see." Inside were documents from the trust fund. Every former West Industries employee had received their full pension, plus interest. "How?" Zane's hands trembled as he read. "The company was bankrupt. Dad left me an account, remember? The one you kept asking about." Understanding dawned on his face. "And you used it to pay back everyone I hurt." "Not everyone. Some things can't be repaid." He nodded, pushing the envelope back to me. "You did the right thing. Like always, not always. I watched you destroy yourself and did nothing to stop it. Because I needed to fall." He managed a small smile. "Mom told me you're running your own consulting firm now. Someone has to rebuild our family's reputation." A guard approached. "Time's up." Zane stood. "Tabitha, thank you, not for coming today, but for letting me face this." I left the prison and found Mom waiting in the car. "How is he?" she asked. "Different. Better, maybe." My phone rang. Jamal's name flashing on the screen. "Turn on the business news," he said when I answered. Mom and I watched on my phone as the anchor reported. "In a surprising turn of events, former West Industries employees have banded together to start a new company, with Tabitha West as lead consultant. The company, Phoenix Consulting, has already secured several major contracts." "They're talking about us," Mom whispered. "That's not all," Jamal continued. "Jensen Industrial wants to partner with Phoenix. Thomas specifically asked for you to lead the negotiations." I ended the call and looked at Mom. "Ready to go home?" "Actually," she straightened up, "I've been thinking about getting my own place." "What?" "You were right. I need to stop depending on my children. I've found a small apartment, and I'm going back to teaching." Pride swelled in my chest. Dad would love that. At Joey's that evening, Michael raised his coffee cup. "To Phoenix rising from the ashes." "To new beginnings," Mom corrected, joining the toast. "To consequences and growth," I added. The bell above the door chimed. Carl walked in, followed by several other former West Industries employees. "Hope we're not interrupting," he said, pulling up a chair, "but we wanted to show you something." They spread blueprints across the table, plans for Phoenix's first major project. "We're not just rebuilding a company," Carl explained. "We're building a family, the right way this time." Rita, the waitress who'd been serving us for years, brought over a fresh pot of coffee. "On the house, boss." She winked at me. "Boss?" Michael raised an eyebrow. "I bought the diner," I admitted. "Couldn't let our meeting spot get sold to some chain restaurant." Mom touched my hand. "Your father would be so proud." "I know." I pulled out the worn photo from my pocket. Dad and me at that high school competition. He always was, I just couldn't see it then. My phone buzzed with a text from Logan. "Your father's last request is complete. The trust fund paperwork is finalized. Well done." Looking around the diner, at Mom finally standing on her own, at Carl and his team planning our future, at Michael who'd stood by me through everything, I realized Dad's legacy wasn't just about money or business. It was about choices, about facing consequences, about rebuilding what was broken. "You know what?" I stood up. "Coffee's on the house for everyone tonight." "Careful," Michael laughed. "That's no way to run a business." "No," I smiled, "but it's a perfect way to build a family." As the diner filled with laughter and conversation, I thought about Zane in his prison cell, Mom in her new apartment, and the Phoenix rising from the ashes of West Industries. We'd all lost something, but maybe we'd found something more valuable: truth, strength, and the courage to begin again. The bell chimed again as more familiar faces walked in. Former employees, new clients, old friends, each one carrying a piece of our shared story, each one part of this unexpected rebirth. More coffee? Rita asked. Yes, I said, watching my new family grow around me. I think we're going to need it. The champagne glass trembled in my hand as I watched my father kiss his new bride. 28 years of memories crashed through my mind like a tidal wave. But the one that hit hardest was my mother's final words. Promise me you'll make things right, Deborah. I'm a forensic investigator by trade. I analyze evidence, uncover truths, and help deliver justice. But nothing in my career prepared me for the storm I was about to unleash at my father's wedding reception. A toast to the happy couple. Pierce, my father's business partner, raised his glass. The crystal chandeliers cast dancing shadows across the ballroom as 200 guests lifted their champagne in unison. I kept mine firmly on the table. Deborah, my father's voice carried that familiar warning tone. Stand up, sweetheart. Show some respect. I met his gaze across the table. Kenneth, my father, looked distinguished in his tailored tuxedo, his silver hair perfectly styled. To everyone else, he was the picture of success. Wealthy businessman, philanthropist, devoted family man, if only they knew. I said, stand up. His smile remained fixed, but his eyes hardened. I can't, Dad. The words came out, barely above a whisper. Roslyn, his new wife, touched his arm. Kenneth, it's okay. No, it's not okay. He stood, commanding the room's attention. My daughter seems to have forgotten her manners. Perhaps she'd like to explain to our guests why she's choosing to disrespect her father on his wedding day. The silence that followed was deafening. I felt every eye in the room turn to me, including those of Anne, Roslyn's cousin, who watched the scene unfold with unusual intensity. I'm not disrespecting anyone, I said, my voice stronger now. I'm honoring a promise. A promise, he laughed. But there was no humor in it. To whom? To Mom. The color drained from his face. Roslyn's perfectly manicured hand flew to her throat, and Pierce suddenly became very interested in his champagne. Your mother has been gone for 2 years, my father said through clenched teeth. This behavior is beneath you, Deborah. You're making a scene. I stood slowly, smoothing my burgundy bridesmaid dress. You're right, Dad. I am making a scene, but trust me, this is nothing compared to what's coming. Gasps rippled through the crowd. My father's face turned an alarming shade of red. You're a disgrace, he spat. Leave, now. Gladly. I grabbed my clutch and headed for the exit, but not before catching Anne's subtle nod in my direction. In the hotel corridor, I heard quick footsteps behind me. Deborah, wait. It was Yesenia, my mother's oldest friend. She caught up to me, her dark eyes full of concern. Are you okay, mi amor? I pulled my mother's letter from my clutch, the one she'd written on her deathbed, the one that would destroy my father's carefully constructed world. I'm fine. Actually, I'm better than fine. Remember what Mom always said about karma? Yesenia's eyes widened as she recognized the envelope. She comes when she's ready. Well, I tucked the letter away safely. Karma's about to make one hell of an entrance. Be careful, Deborah. Your father has it coming. I squeezed her hand. Trust me, this is just the beginning. As I walked toward the elevator, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Meet me at the hotel bar in 10 minutes. We need to talk. Anne. I smiled, remembering the knowing look she'd given me during the toast. Maybe I wasn't as alone in this as I thought. In the elevator mirror, I studied my reflection. I had my mother's features, the same dark hair, olive skin, and determined set to my jaw. The same fire in my eyes that refused to be extinguished. I'm doing this for you, Mom, I whispered to my reflection. He thought he could bury the truth with you, but he was wrong. So wrong. The elevator doors opened to the lobby, and I headed toward the bar, my heels clicking against the marble floor like a countdown. In my clutch, The letter seemed to pulse with energy. 6 pages of truth that would shatter my father's perfect new life. Let him call me a disgrace. Let him try to silence me. But Mom taught me that some promises are sacred, and some truths refuse to stay buried. As I pushed open the heavy wooden doors to the bar, I spotted Anne already waiting in a corner booth. 2 martinis on the table. The real show was about to begin. And this time, I wouldn't be the one leaving in disgrace. That honor belonged to my father, and his time was running out. I straightened my spine and walked toward Anne's table, each step bringing me closer to the revenge my mother deserved. Sometimes karma needs a little help, and I was more than happy to give her a push in the right direction. Your mother knew, didn't she? Anne slid one of the martinis toward me as I sat down. About Kenneth's dealings with Pierce? I took a careful sip, studying her face. Why don't you tell me what you know first? Fair enough. Anne leaned forward, her voice dropping. 3 months ago, I was working late at the investment firm. I handle accounts for some of Rosalind's clients. I overheard Pierce and your father discussing some creative accounting methods. The memory of my mother's last days crashed over me like a wave. I was sitting by her hospital bed, holding her trembling hand as she whispered, "The safe in his office. There's proof." Deborah, Anne's voice pulled me back. "Sorry, it's just, I pulled out Mom's letter. 2 years ago, my mother called me to her hospital room. She was so weak, but her mind was sharp as ever. She handed me this letter and made me promise not to open it until Dad remarried." "What's in it?" I traced the sealed envelope with my finger. Evidence, account numbers, dates, names. Mom was an accountant before she got sick. She noticed discrepancies in Dad's books, started digging. What she found? I shook my head. Let's just say my father's perfect reputation is built on quicksand. "Show me," Anne said. "Why should I trust you?" She pulled out her phone, opened a recording app, and played a conversation. I recognized my father's voice immediately. "Pierce, move the funds offshore before the audit. Use the usual channels, and make sure Rosalind doesn't find out. She's not as understanding as Natasha was." My hands clenched into fists. He drove her to her grave with his lies, and now he's doing the same to Rosalind. "That's why I'm here," Anne said. "Rosalind's like a sister to me. I won't let him destroy her like he destroyed your mother." The bartender approached, and we fell silent until he passed. "There's more," I said quietly. "Mom mentioned something about another woman, someone from before she met Dad, but she was too weak to explain further. I might be able to help with that." Anne pulled out a folded newspaper clipping from her purse. "Found this while doing some research. It's from 25 years ago." The yellowed paper showed a younger version of my father, with a woman I didn't recognize, both smiling at some charity event. The caption read, "Local businessman Kenneth and partner Maria celebrate successful fundraiser." Maria, my throat went dry. He never mentioned her. Keep reading. The article mentioned Maria's sudden departure from the charity board due to personal reasons. The timing aligned perfectly with when my parents first met. "Your mother knew about her," Anne said. "It's all in her financial records, regular payments to an offshore account, starting right before Maria disappeared." My phone buzzed. A text from Yesenia. "Your father's looking for you. Be careful, mi amor. He's furious." "We need to move," I said, standing. "Dad's coming." Anne grabbed her purse. "Meet me tomorrow at the public library, noon. I have more to show you." As we hurried toward the back exit, I heard my father's voice booming through the main entrance. We slipped out just as he entered the bar. In the parking lot, Anne caught my arm. "Deborah, wait, there's something else you should know. The payments to Maria's account? They didn't stop when she left. They continued for years, right up until your mother got sick." My mind raced. Why would he keep paying her unless there was something, or someone, he needed to keep quiet about? Anne finished. I thought about the letter in my clutch, still unopened. Mom knew. She must have included it in here. "Don't open it yet," Anne warned. "We need to gather more evidence first. Your father has powerful friends. One wrong move, and he'll bury everything deeper than we can dig. In the distance, I heard my father calling my name. Tomorrow noon, I confirmed, then hurried to my car. As I drove home through the rain-slicked streets, Mom's voice echoed in my memory. Sometimes the truth hurts, mija, but lies destroy everything they touch. I touched the letter resting in my passenger seat. I'm getting close, Mom, I promise. My phone lit up with another text, this time from an unknown number. I know what happened to Maria. Meet me at the old lighthouse tomorrow night. Come alone. The pieces were starting to fall into place. But something told me this was bigger than just financial fraud. My father's empire was built on secrets, and somewhere in those secrets was a truth that even my mother might not have known. As I pulled into my driveway, I made a decision. Tomorrow, I would open the letter, but first, I needed to visit the lighthouse, because something told me that whoever knew about Maria might just be the key to bringing my father's whole world crashing down. And this time, he wouldn't be able to buy his way out of the truth. The old lighthouse stood like a sentinel against the darkening sky. My forensics training screamed that this was a terrible idea, meeting an unknown contact, alone, at night. But I'd come prepared, my hand resting on the pepper spray in my pocket. A figure emerged from the shadows. I wasn't sure you'd come. I spun around, heart racing, to find a woman in her early 40s. She had kind eyes and wore a maintenance worker's uniform, with Sarah embroidered on the pocket. You know about Maria. I kept my distance, studying her body language for signs of deception. I should. I cleaned her house for 15 years. Sarah's voice carried a weight of secrets. Your father paid me well to keep quiet, but... She glanced around nervously. Some things shouldn't stay buried. Tell me everything. Not here. She gestured toward the lighthouse keeper's cottage. Inside. The cottage was small but well maintained. Sarah locked the door behind us and drew the curtains. I'm the lighthouse keeper now, she explained. Have been for 10 years. It's quiet, isolated, perfect for keeping secrets. What secrets? She pulled out an old photo album. Maria wasn't just your father's business partner. She was pregnant when she disappeared. My knees went weak. I sank into a chair as Sarah opened the album. The first photo showed Maria, clearly pregnant, standing in front of a Christmas tree. When was this taken? December 1992, 3 months before you were born. The implications hit me like a physical blow. Are you saying Maria had a daughter? Sarah turned the page to reveal a baby girl with dark curls. Your half-sister, Sabrina. My phone buzzed, Anne texting about our library meeting. I ignored it, too focused on the photos before me. Where is she now? My voice shook. Living in Seattle. She's a doctor. Sarah pulled out a business card. She knows everything Deborah has known for years, but your father's lawyers made it clear. Stay quiet or lose everything. Does my mother's letter mention her? Sarah's eyes widened. Natasha left you a letter. Haven't opened it yet. I was waiting to... A car door slammed outside. Sarah rushed to the window. Pierce's car. How did he... The text, I realized. He must have traced my phone. Sarah grabbed the photo album and shoved it into my hands. Back door, through the garden. There's a path to the beach. Go. I clutched the album and ran. Behind me, I heard Pierce's voice. Sarah, we need to talk. The path was treacherous in the dark, but fear made me sure-footed. I reached my car, parked a block away, and drove straight to Anne's house. She opened the door in her pajamas. Deborah, what's wrong? I have a sister. I thrust the album at her. Anne Pierce is trying to stop me from finding her. Anne's living room became our war room. We spread the photos across her coffee table, along with Mom's still unopened letter and the evidence Anne had gathered. Look at this. Anne pointed to a photo's timestamp. March 15, 1993, the day you were born. Maria was still pregnant. That's impossible unless... The realization hit me. Twins, separated at birth, one given to Maria, one to your mother. Anne's voice was gentle. Your father made a choice. My phone rang. Yesenia, mi amor, your father knows you met someone at the lighthouse. He's furious. Says you're destroying the family. He destroyed it first, I replied. Tell him karma's coming. After hanging up, I finally reached for Mom's letter. It's time. Anne squeezed my hand as I broke the seal. 6 pages of my mother's careful handwriting spilled out, along with a USB drive. The first lines made my heart stop. My dearest Deborah, if you're reading this, I'm gone, and your father has remarried. There's something you need to know about the day you were born. Wait. Anne grabbed her laptop. Let's check the drive first. The USB contained hundreds of files, financial records, emails, legal documents. But one folder caught my eye. Sabrina. Inside was a video file dated 2 months before Mom died. I clicked play. Mom's face filled the screen, gaunt but determined. Sabrina, if you're watching this, I'm so sorry. I've known about you for years, but stayed silent to protect both you and Deborah. Your father threatened to ruin your career if I ever told. But you deserve the truth. You both do. Tears streamed down my face as Anne hugged me. We need to find her, I said. Already on it. Anne typed rapidly on her laptop. Dr. Sabrina Martinez, Seattle General Hospital. My phone buzzed again. Another text from Pierce. Whatever you think you know, you don't. Back off now, or things will get ugly. I showed Anne the message. She smiled grimly. Too late for threats. Time to make things ugly ourselves. I looked at Mom's photo on the screen, then at the business card Sarah had given me. Book us 2 tickets to Seattle. It's time for a family reunion. Pierce and my father had no idea what was coming, but they were about to find out that karma had backup, and she was bringing receipts. Seattle's rain felt different from home, colder, more persistent. Anne and I huddled under an umbrella outside Seattle General Hospital, watching doctors and nurses hurry past. There. Anne nodded toward a woman in a white coat, exiting the building. Dark curls, olive skin. She could have been my reflection in a slightly older mirror. Sabrina, I whispered. She walked straight toward the parking garage, keys jingling in her hand. Before I could lose my nerve, I stepped into her path. Dr. Martinez. She stopped, eyes narrowing as she took in my face. Recognition flickered across her features, followed by something darker. You're Kenneth's daughter. I'm your sister. The keys slipped from her hand, clattering on the wet pavement. Anne retrieved them as Sabrina stared at me, her composure cracking. How did you? She glanced around nervously. Not here. Follow me. We trailed her to a nearby coffee shop. The tension at our small corner table was thick enough to cut with a knife. I assume you found Mom's letter. Sabrina's hands wrapped around her untouched coffee. You knew about it. Natasha contacted me 6 months before she died. We met in secret. She pulled out her phone, showed me a photo of her and Mom in a hospital garden. She wanted to make things right, but Kenneth's lawyers threatened your career, I finished. Mom mentioned it in her video. Video? Sabrina leaned forward. What video? Anne pulled out her laptop, played Mom's message. Sabrina's hands trembled as she watched. I never knew she recorded this. Tears spilled down her cheeks. All these years, I thought she'd chosen to give me away. Dad chose, I said. He split us up, paid Maria to disappear with you. And now he's about to pay for it, Anne added, opening another file on her laptop. Look what we found in Natasha's records. The spreadsheet detailed years of payments, not just to Maria, but to judges, regulators, even hospital administrators, a systematic web of bribes and blackmail. Pierce helped set it all up, Sabrina said. He was there the day I was born, handled all the paperwork, made sure there was no official record of twins. My phone buzzed, a text from Yesenia. Pierce is in Seattle. He's looking for you. We need to move fast, Anne said. These records prove everything. But we need more, something recent. Sabrina's expression hardened. I can help with that. Pierce has been paying me too, monthly deposits to keep quiet. I've kept every receipt, every email. Why didn't you expose them yourself? I asked. Because of Maria, my other mother. Kenneth threatened to cut off her medical care if I talked. She has MS, needs constant treatment. That's why you became a doctor, I realized. She nodded. To take care of her myself. But now, she pulled out her own USB drive. I've been gathering evidence for years. Bank statements, recorded conversations, everything. Anne's laptop chimed. An email alert. She went pale. Pierce just transferred $5 million offshore. They're moving money out of the country. They know we're here, I said. Dad must have people watching the hospital. Let them watch. Sabrina's voice was steel. I'm done hiding. A man in a dark suit entered the coffee shop, scanning the room. Pierce's security. Back door, Sabrina whispered. My car's in the alley. We slipped out just as more suits arrived. Sabrina drove us to a small house on the outskirts of the city. Maria's place, she explained, unlocking the door. She's at a treatment center this week. We'll be safe here. Inside, Sabrina led us to a home office filled with filing cabinets. Everything's here, every payment, every threat, every lie. Enough to destroy them, Anne asked. Enough to put them in prison. My phone rang. Dad's number. I put it on speaker. Where are you? His voice was deadly calm. With my sister. Silence. Then, don't do this, Deborah. You'll regret it. Like you regret abandoning Sabrina, or threatening Maria, or driving Mom to her grave. I gave you everything, he exploded. A perfect life, built on lies. Sabrina cut in. Hello, Father. I heard him inhale sharply. Sabrina, be reasonable. Think about your mother. I am, both of them. She met my eyes. It's over, Kenneth. The truth comes out tomorrow. You'll destroy everything, he warned, including yourselves. No, I said. Just you. I hung up as headlights swept across the windows. Pierce's car. The files, Anne said urgently. We need to get them out. Sabrina smiled grimly, handed her a key. Already done. Everything's in a safety deposit box at First National, under Mom's maiden name. As Pierce's men approached the house, we slipped out through the basement, emerging 2 blocks away where Yesenia waited in her car. Ready? She asked. I looked at Sabrina, saw my own determination mirrored in her face. Tomorrow, we'd release everything to the media. Tonight, we'd prepare for war. Ready, we said together, because some truths refuse to stay buried, and some sisters refuse to be separated again. The restaurant was Dad's choice, an upscale Italian place where he'd always conducted his most important business. Tonight, he'd requested a family dinner to sort things out. Sabrina and I knew better. He'll try to buy us off, Sabrina whispered as we walked in. That's his solution to everything. Dad stood as we approached, Rosalind beside him looking uncomfortable. Pierce lurked at a nearby table, pretending to be having a separate dinner. My daughters, Dad said loudly enough for nearby tables to hear, arms spread wide. Please, sit. Both of them now. Rosalind's voice shook. Kenneth, what's going on? Not here, dear. He shot her a warning look. A waiter appeared with wine. Dad raised his glass. To family reunions. Neither Sabrina nor I touched our glasses. Is still sulking? He sighed. Fine, let's talk business. He pulled out a checkbook. Name your price. You think you can buy our silence? Sabrina's voice was ice. Like you bought Maria's? Rosalind's head snapped up. Who's Maria? Nobody, Dad said quickly. Ancient history. I'm nobody? Sabrina pulled out her phone, showed Rosalind the old photos. I'm his daughter, his firstborn. Well, technically, we both were. Rosalind's face went white. Twins, Kenneth, you told me Deborah was your only child. He tells a lot of lies, I said, sliding Mom's letter across the table. Read it. Dad's hand shot out to grab the letter, but Sabrina was faster. She handed it directly to Rosalind, who began reading with trembling hands. Don't, Dad warned. Rosalind, put that down. Why? Her voice rose. What are you afraid I'll find out? Pierce stood, moving toward our table, but Anne appeared from nowhere, sliding into the seat next to Rosalind. Keep reading, she encouraged. The best part's on page 4. Dad's face turned purple. This is family business. Family? I laughed. You separated twins at birth, paid off doctors, judges, and God knows who else. Threatened a sick woman's medical care to keep your daughter quiet. That's not family. That's organized crime. Everything I did was for this family. No, Sabrina said quietly. Everything you did was for yourself. Rosalind reached page 4. She gasped, hands flying to her mouth. The offshore accounts, the bribes. Kenneth, these numbers. It's all lies, Dad insisted. The SEC doesn't think so, Anne said, checking her phone. They just opened an official investigation. Funny timing. Pierce rushed to our table. Kenneth, we need to leave, now. Nobody's leaving, said a new voice. We turned to see Yesenia with 2 FBI agents. Except maybe you, Pierce? Dad stood so quickly, his chair crashed backward. You can't prove anything. Actually, Sabrina pulled out a recorder. We can prove everything, including the conversation we just had about trying to buy our silence. You recorded me. His face contorted. Your own father? You stopped being my father the day you gave me away. Rosalind stood, tears streaming down her face. I want an annulment. Sit down, Dad roared, grabbing her arm. The FBI agents moved forward, but Rosalind yanked free herself. Don't touch me. I trusted you. I defended you when Deborah tried to warn me, but she was right about everything. Mrs. Bowen, one agent said, we'll need your statement as well. Dad looked around wildly, seeing his carefully constructed world crumbling. Pierce, do something. But Pierce was already backing away. Sorry, Kenneth, every man for himself. The agents moved in. Kenneth Bowen, you're under arrest for fraud, embezzlement, and witness tampering. As they led him away, he turned to us one last time. I gave you everything. No, I said, taking Sabrina's hand. Mom gave us everything. The strength to fight back, the courage to face the truth, and now, each other. Rosalind hugged us both, whispering apologies. Anne and Yesenia joined us as the restaurant cleared out. Maria's waiting at my place, Sabrina said. She wants to meet you, Deborah. Really meet you this time. My phone buzzed, a news alert. Dad's arrest was already hitting the headlines. His empire was falling, his reputation in tatters. What happens now? Rosalind asked quietly. Now, I said, we build something new, something honest. Together, Sabrina added. We left the restaurant as a group, not the family Dad had tried to create through lies and manipulation, but something stronger, something real. Outside, the night air felt cleaner somehow. Mom's letter had started all this. But her real gift wasn't the evidence it contained. It was the truth it forced into the light, and the sisters it brought together. Karma hadn't just come for Dad. She'd come bearing gifts, justice, reunion, and a chance to start over. As we drove to meet Maria, I thought about Mom's final words again. Promise me you'll make things right. Looking at Sabrina in the rearview mirror, I smiled. Promise kept, Mom. Promise kept. Maria's hand shook as she poured tea in Sabrina's living room. Despite her illness, she moved with a grace that reminded me of Mom. You look just like her, Maria said softly. Natasha, she was so beautiful. Did you know her? I asked, accepting the cup. We met once, shortly after you were born. Maria sat carefully in her wheelchair. She came to my house, furious, demanding answers. But when she saw me holding Sabrina, she smiled at the memory. Something changed. She understood I was as much a victim as she was. Sabrina squeezed her mother's shoulder. Tell her about the letters. Letters. I set down my tea. Maria wheeled over to a wooden chest, pulled out a bundle tied with faded ribbon. Your mother and I corresponded in secret for years. Kenneth never knew. The letters spanned 2 decades. Mom and Maria sharing stories, photos, watching their daughters grow up from afar. 2 mothers united by lies, protecting their children the only way they could. This one, Maria handed me a yellowed envelope, came just before she got sick. I read aloud. My dearest Maria, the doctors say I don't have much time. Kenneth thinks he's won, that his secrets will die with me. But we know better. Our girls are stronger than his lies. When the time comes, they'll find each other. And when they do, keep reading, Sabrina urged. When they do, give them the key. It's time they knew everything. Maria pulled a small key from her necklace. This opens a storage unit in downtown Seattle. Everything's there. Every document, every photo, every piece of evidence your mother and I collected over 20 years. But the FBI already has. This is different, Sabrina interrupted. This is personal, family history, things Dad doesn't even know exist. A knock at the door made us jump. Anne peeked in. Sorry to interrupt, but you need to see this. She handed me her tablet. On screen, Pierce was giving a press conference outside the police station. Kenneth acted alone. He was saying, I had no knowledge of his illegal activities. In fact, I was the one who first alerted authorities. Liar, Maria's voice cracked. He was there the day you were born. He arranged everything. We can prove it, I said, with Mom's evidence and yours. There's more. Anne looked grim. Your father made bail, and he's calling an emergency board meeting tomorrow. Sabrina stood. He's going to try to hide the money, transfer everything before the courts can freeze it. Not if we stop him. I turned to Maria. Where's this storage unit? An hour later, we stood in front of a wall of boxes, each one meticulously labeled, dated, organized. Mom's accounting skills merged with Maria's attention to detail. Look at this, Anne called out. She'd found a laptop, ancient but preserved. It's got all the original files, the ones Pierce deleted from the company's servers. And this. Sabrina held up a manila envelope. Recordings of Pierce and Dad planning the cover-up. From 1993, my phone rang. Roslyn. Deborah, Pierce just called an emergency meeting of his own. Something about restructuring the company before the scandal hits. When? Tonight, some warehouse by the pier. He's gathering all the board members who are still loyal to your father. I looked at the evidence surrounding us, then at my sister. Want to crash a party? Sabrina's smile was pure mischief. I'll drive. We loaded the most damaging evidence into her car. Anne coordinated with the FBI, while Roslyn texted us the warehouse address. Be careful, Maria warned. Kenneth is dangerous when cornered. So are we, Sabrina and I said, in unison. The warehouse was lit up. Expensive cars parked outside. Through the windows, we could see Pierce addressing a room full of suits. Ready? Sabrina asked, clutching Mom's laptop. I held up Maria's key. Born ready. We walked in just as Pierce was saying. And with these new arrangements, the company's assets will be fully protected. Protected from what, Pierce? My voice cut through the room. The truth? The board members turned, murmuring as they saw us. Sabrina held up the laptop. Maybe we should play them the highlights reel. Starting with March 15, 1993, Pierce's face went ashen. Security. They're busy, Anne called from the doorway. Talking to the FBI agents outside, the room erupted in chaos. Board members rushed for the exits. Pierce tried to delete files from his phone. And through it all, Sabrina and I stood firm. It's over, I said. For you and Dad both. You don't understand what you're doing, Pierce pleaded. The company will survive, Sabrina cut in. Under new leadership, honest leadership. As FBI agents entered the warehouse, I thought about Mom and Maria, two women who never gave up, who kept gathering evidence year after year, protecting their daughters and waiting for the right moment. That moment had finally come. And as Pierce was led away in handcuffs, I realized this wasn't just about revenge anymore. It was about justice, truth, and the family we chose to be. The family we were always meant to be. The courthouse steps were crowded with reporters when Dad arrived for his arraignment. He walked with his usual confidence, but his designer suit couldn't hide the defeat in his eyes. Ready? Sabrina squeezed my hand as we watched from across the street. Before I could answer, a familiar voice called out. Girls, wait! We turned to see Maria being helped out of a taxi by Yesenia and Anne. Despite her wheelchair, she radiated strength. "I need to face him too," she said. Together, we crossed the street. The reporters surged forward, cameras flashing. "Kenneth!" Maria's voice carried across the crowd. Dad froze mid-step. "Maria?" His composure cracked. "You can't be here." "Can't?" She wheeled forward. "Like I couldn't keep my baby. Like I couldn't tell the truth. Those days are over, Kenneth." The reporters went wild, shouting questions. Dad's lawyer tried to hustle him inside, but he stood rooted, staring at his past come back to haunt him. "Miss Bowen," a reporter thrust a microphone at me. "Is it true you discovered you had a twin sister?" "Actually," I said clearly, "I discovered I had a family, a real one. Not the lie my father built." "Mr. Bowen, did you really separate twins at birth?" Dad finally snapped. "Everything I did was for them. To give them better lives." "Better?" Sabrina stepped forward. "You threatened my mother's medical care. Made me live in fear. How is that better?" "You don't understand." "No, you don't understand," I cut in. "Mom knew everything. She and Maria both did. They protected us, gathered evidence, waited for the right moment. Natasha," his face went pale. "She wouldn't." "Wouldn't what?" Maria pulled out a folder. "Keep records? Track your crimes?" She was an accountant, Kenneth. Numbers don't lie. The courthouse doors opened. Pierce emerged in handcuffs, escorted by FBI agents. He saw us and tried to turn back, but it was too late. "Pierce," Dad called out. Tell them we did it for the company." Pierce shook his head. "Sorry, Kenneth, I've made a deal. Full cooperation for a reduced sentence." "Traitor." Dad lunged at him. Security guards rushed forward. "The only traitor," Sabrina said loudly, "is the man who betrayed his own family." As the guards restrained Dad, Maria wheeled closer. "Remember what you said to me 28 years ago? That money solves everything. Well, look around, Kenneth. Look what your money bought you." The reporters pressed closer, cameras rolling as Dad was led inside. But we weren't done. Not yet. Inside the courthouse, just before the arraignment began, Rosalind approached the defense table. She placed her wedding ring in front of Dad. "The annulment papers are filed," she said quietly. "I've given my statement to the FBI. Rosalind, please, save it." She turned to us. "I'm testifying for the prosecution." The judge entered, and the proceedings began. As the charges were read, fraud, embezzlement, conspiracy, witness tampering, I watched Dad's shoulders sink lower and lower. "How do you plead?" the judge asked. Dad looked back at us, his daughters, his ex-wife, the women he'd tried to silence. For the first time, I saw real fear in his eyes. "Guilty," he whispered. "I plead guilty." The courtroom erupted. Reporters rushed for the doors, racing to break the story. But we stayed, watching as Dad was led away in handcuffs. Outside, Anne met us with news. "The board has voted. They want you both to take over the company." "Both of us?" Sabrina asked. "Joint CEOs," Anne confirmed. "They think it's the perfect way to restore public trust." Maria beamed with pride. "Your mothers would have loved this." Speaking of mothers, I pulled out Mom's letter, the one that started everything. "There's one part we haven't read yet, the last page." Sabrina and Maria moved closer as I read aloud. "My precious daughters, by now you've found each other. You've faced your father and exposed his lies. But remember, the greatest revenge isn't destruction. It's creation. Build something new, something true, something worthy of the strength it took to get here. I love you both. Always, Mom." Tears streamed down Sabrina's face. "She loved me too, even though—" "She loved you because," Maria said softly, "just like I've always loved Deborah from afar." We hugged, right there on the courthouse steps. Two daughters, two mothers' legacies, one truth finally set free. "So," Anne said, wiping her own eyes, "ready to run a company?" Sabrina and I looked at each other, seeing the same determination, the same fire that had driven our mothers. Ready, we said together, because sometimes justice isn't just about punishment. Sometimes it's about reconstruction, about taking broken pieces and building something stronger, something true, something worthy of the women who never stopped fighting for us. The autumn wind whipped around us as Sabrina and I stood before Mom's grave, Maria's wheelchair between us. We'd brought fresh flowers and something else, the final documents from Dad's sentencing. 15 years, Sabrina said softly, placing the papers at the headstone. No chance of early release. Pierce got 8, I added. And they seized everything, all the hidden accounts, properties, everything. Maria touched the gravestone. She'd be proud of you both, not just for bringing them to justice, but for what you've built. The company's transformation had been our greatest achievement. We'd renamed it Phoenix Trust, symbolizing its rise from the ashes of corruption. Every unethical deal had been exposed, every wronged party compensated. Did you tell her about the foundation? Maria asked. Sabrina smiled. The Natasha Maria Foundation for Medical Justice. I think she knows. We'd used the seized assets to create a foundation providing medical care to families threatened into silence by corporate corruption. Maria was its first beneficiary, but not its last. My phone buzzed. A text from Roslyn. Board meeting in an hour. Big announcement. Ready? I asked Sabrina. Almost. She pulled out an old envelope. Found this in the storage unit yesterday. It's addressed to both of us. Another letter from Mom, one we hadn't seen before. My hands trembled as I opened it. My dearest twins, I read aloud. If you're reading this, you've not only found each other, but found yourselves. Remember that true strength isn't in revenge, but in redemption, in taking what was broken and making it whole. A car door slammed nearby. We turned to see Yesenia hurrying toward us. Mi amor, she called out. They're here. A group of women emerged from a van. Former employees Dad had silenced, families he'd threatened, people whose lives he'd nearly destroyed. They were all foundation beneficiaries now, and they'd come to help us with today's announcement. The press is waiting at Phoenix, Anne said, joining us. Everyone ready for the big reveal? At the office, reporters packed the conference room. Sabrina and I took our places at the podium. Maria and our extended family of survivors behind us. Phoenix Trust isn't just a company, I began. It's a promise to right the wrongs of the past. Which is why, Sabrina continued, we're announcing the Complete Transparency Initiative. Every document, every transaction, every decision will be publicly accessible. The room erupted with questions. We answered each one, holding nothing back. No more secrets, no more lies. After the press conference, we gathered in our shared office. Once Dad's sanctuary of deception, now a space of healing. The walls, once bare, now held photos. Mom, Maria, us as babies, and dozens of foundation recipients. Look what came from legal, Anne said, handing us a document. Your father signed over his remaining shares. The company is completely yours now. Not just ours, I said, sharing a look with Sabrina. Maria, Roslyn, could you join us? We'd had the papers drawn up weeks ago, sharing ownership with Maria, Roslyn, and our foundation beneficiaries. A true phoenix, rising together. There's one more thing, Sabrina said. She opened our office safe and pulled out Mom's last letter. The part we didn't read at the grave. I continued where we'd left off. Making something whole, again, isn't about erasing the cracks. It's about filling them with gold, making them part of the story. Your father tried to split you apart, but in doing so, he gave you something precious. The chance to choose each other, to choose truth, to choose love. Maria wiped tears from her eyes. Both your mothers chose love too. Every day, every letter, every piece of evidence we gathered. It was all for love. A knock at the door, Yesenia, with a package. From the storage unit, the last box. Inside were photos we'd never seen. Mom and Maria together, both pregnant. They were smiling, hands on their bellies, already loving the daughters they'd have to separate. They knew, Sabrina whispered. They knew we'd find each other. And rebuild everything, I added. The setting sun painted our office golden, highlighting the faces and the photos on our walls. A tapestry of truth, justice, and redemption. Not just our blood family, but the family we'd chosen. The family we'd built. To Mom and Maria, Sabrina raised her coffee cup. The real Phoenix founders. To truth, Anne added. To justice, Rosalind said. To family, Maria finished. I looked around at these incredible women, my sister, our mothers, our chosen family, and felt Mom's words echo in my heart. The cracks in our story weren't flaws to be hidden. They were gold-filled seams that made us stronger, more beautiful, more true. We'd done more than expose lies or right wrongs. We'd created something our mothers had always dreamed of. A place where truth wasn't just spoken, but lived. Where justice wasn't just served, but shared. Where family wasn't just born, it was chosen, again and again, with every beat of our healing hearts.
I thanked him with a smile when he told me he was leaving me for his secretary. 23 years of marriage, and those were the only words I could muster as he dropped his bombshell over our usual Sunday morning coffee. My name is Avery, and I've spent half my life being the perfect wife to a man who just told me I wasn't enough anymore. You're thanking me? Jonah's coffee cup froze halfway to his lips, his familiar wrinkles deepening in confusion. Avery, did you hear what I said? Crystal clear. I took another sip of my coffee, savouring its bitter warmth. Her name is Claire, she's 29, and you've been sleeping with her for 6 months. How did you? Your cologne changed. You started working late on Thursdays, and you've been clearing your browser history religiously. I set down my cup with deliberate care. I'm not stupid, Jonah. I never was. He had the decency to look ashamed, but only briefly. I didn't plan this, Avery. It just happened. Claire. She understands me. She challenges me. Unlike your boring housewife who put you through medical school. The words slipped out before I could stop them. That was 20 years ago. People change. We've grown apart. As we take a brief pause, we'd love to know where you're watching from today. Drop your location in the comments below. Now, back to our story. I glanced around our kitchen, the one I'd decorated, the one where I'd packed countless lunches and kissed countless hurts better. Our daughter Audrey's graduation photos smiled down from the wall next to Gary's latest baseball team picture. Have you told the kids? I asked, though I already knew the answer. Not yet. I wanted to tell you first. He reached across the table for my hand. I pulled back. Don't. My voice was steady. When are you moving out? I've found an apartment. I can be gone by next weekend. He paused. Claire's waiting for me. Of course she was. Perfect, young Claire with her perfect makeup and designer clothes, paid for by my husband's successful medical practice, the one I'd helped him build while putting my own dreams on hold. Mum, Gary's voice from the doorway made us both jump. Our 18-year-old son stood there in his pajamas, eyes darting between us. What's going on? Your father was just leaving, I said, standing up. He has something to tell you and your sister later. Avery, Jonah started. Later, I repeated firmly. Gary, honey, would you put some coffee on? I need to make a phone call. I walked calmly to my home office, closed the door, and picked up my phone. My hands weren't shaking, that surprised me. Eleanor, it's me. Can you come over? I listened to my best friend's concerned voice. No, I'm fine. Actually, I'm better than fine. Remember that contingency plan we talked about? It's time. After hanging up, I opened my laptop and logged into an email account Jonah knew nothing about. Dr. Ava Stone had 3 consulting requests waiting, including one from a prestigious hospital in Boston. I allowed myself a small smile. The knock on my door came sooner than expected. Mom. It was Audrey, home from college for the weekend. Dad's acting weird and Gary says something's wrong. I opened the door to find both my children looking worried. Behind them, Jonah hovered uncertainly in the hallway. Family meeting, I announced. Living room now. As we gathered, I caught my reflection in the window, a woman in her 40s still attractive despite the subtle signs of aging. I'd spent years being invisible, and now— "Your father has something to tell you," I said, sitting down between my children on the couch. Jonah cleared his throat. "I'm moving out. Your mother and we're getting divorced." The explosion was immediate. Gary jumped up, fists clenched. Audrey burst into tears. "It's Claire, isn't it?" Audrey's voice was acid. "Your secretary? Really, Dad? How could you?" Gary's face was red with anger. "After everything Mum's done for you." I touched their shoulders gently. "Your father's made his choice. We'll get through this." "But Mom," Audrey turned to me, mascara running, "what are you going to do? You've never even had a job." That's what they all thought. My children, my husband, our friends. Poor Avery, the devoted housewife who sacrificed everything for her family. They had no idea. "Don't worry about me," I said, meeting Jonah's eyes across the room. "I'll manage just fine." Eleanor arrived 20 minutes later, after Jonah had left and the kids had retreated to their rooms. She found me in the kitchen, calmly making fresh coffee. "So," she said, sliding onto a bar stool, "are you ready to show them who Dr. Ava Stone really is?" I handed her a steaming cup. "Not yet. First, I want to watch him squirm." "The hospital's financial troubles aren't going away," Elena reminded me. "Sooner or later he'll need Dr. Stone's help." "I know." I smiled that same smile I'd given Jonah earlier. "And won't that be interesting?" "Dr. Stone, your insight on this case has been invaluable," Dr. Mann's voice carried clearly through my laptop speakers. "The board would love to have you present at next month's conference." I adjusted my webcam slightly, ensuring my home office's carefully curated bookshelf remained visible behind me. "I'm honoured, Dorian, but you know my policy about in-person appearances." Yes, the mysterious Dr. Ava Stone. He chuckled. "Though I must say, your video consultations have revolutionized how we handle complex cases." If only Jonah could see me now, commanding respect from the same medical professionals who used to barely acknowledge me at his hospital fundraisers. But that wasn't why I'd created Dr. Stone. Not entirely. A knock at my door interrupted my thoughts. "Just a moment, Dorian." I muted my microphone. "Come in." Audrey poked her head in. "Mum, I need to talk to you about— Oh, sorry, you're working." "Give me 5 minutes, honey." I turned back to my screen. "Dorian, I'll review the conference materials and get back to you tomorrow." After ending the call, I found Audrey waiting in the kitchen, picking at a bowl of cereal. 2 weeks had passed since Jonah's departure, and the dark circles under her eyes told me she wasn't sleeping well. "What's up?" I asked, pouring myself coffee. "Dad called. He wants us to have dinner with him. And— her." She practically spat the last word. "And how do you feel about that?" "I told him to go to hell." She pushed her cereal away. "But Gary's considering it. Mom, how are you so calm about all this?" I sat down beside her. "Because I refuse to let his choices destroy what I've built." "What you've built? Mom, you've been a housewife since I was born." The words stung even though I knew they shouldn't. "Actually, there's something I need to tell you and Gary." "Where is he?" "Upstairs, probably texting Dad again." She rolled her eyes. "He's worried about him. Apparently the hospital's having problems." Perfect timing. "Gary?" I called. "Family meeting." Minutes later, we sat in the living room, my children watching me expectantly. I took a deep breath. "What I'm about to tell you needs to stay between us for now." I opened my laptop and pulled up Dr. Stone's website. For the past 5 years, I've been running a medical consulting business. Their blank stares would have been comical under different circumstances. "You're— What?" Gary leaned forward, squinting at the screen. "Dr. Ava Stone," I said, clicking through to my credentials page. "I've been consulting for hospitals across the country, helping with their most challenging cases." "But how?" Audrey's voice was barely a whisper. "When did you— Remember those online courses I took while you were in high school? The ones your father dismissed as my hobby?" I smiled. I was completing my master's in healthcare administration. Then came the certifications, The networking, building my reputation. Does Dad know? Gary asked. No. And he's not going to. Not yet. Understanding dawned on Audrey's face. The hospital's financial troubles. They need someone like Dr. Stone, don't they? They do. I closed my laptop. And eventually they'll find me. But first, I need you both to understand why I kept this secret. Because of Dad, Gary said flatly. He would have taken credit for it somehow. Smart boy. Partly, but mostly because I needed to prove to myself that I could do this on my own. My phone buzzed. Elena's text reminded me of my afternoon consultation. Mom? Audrey's voice was different now, filled with something like awe. How much do you make doing this? I named a figure that made both their jaws drop. Holy shit, Gary whispered. We're not going to lose the house. Language, I said automatically. And no, we're not losing anything. In fact, I hesitated, then decided they deserved to know everything. I make more than your father does. The silence that followed was broken by unexpected laughter. Audrey's rich, genuine laugh that I hadn't heard since before the divorce announcement. Oh my God, she gasped. All those times he talked down to you about money. Does Elena know? Gary asked. She's been my confidant from the start. Speaking of which, I stood up, gathering my materials for the afternoon call. I have a consultation in 20 minutes. Questions? They had dozens, of course, but the most important one came from Audrey. When are you going to tell him? When the time is right. I touched her cheek gently. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about hurting someone. It's about showing them exactly what they failed to see. As I headed back to my office, I heard Gary say, "Damn, our mom's a badass." I smiled, thinking of the email I'd received that morning from Jonah's hospital board. They were looking for an external consultant to help restructure their failing departments. They'd heard wonderful things about Dr. Ava Stone. Sometimes karma works in mysterious ways. And sometimes, if you're patient enough, it works exactly as planned. The hospital's cutting my department's funding by 30%. Jonah's voice crackled through my phone speaker. I need to talk to you about the house. I stirred honey into my tea, watching rain streak down the kitchen window. The house isn't for sale, Jonah. Avery, be reasonable. We need to liquidate assets. No, you need to liquidate assets. I'm staying right here with our children. A frustrated sigh. Can we meet? Please. There are things we need to discuss face to face. I checked my calendar. Dr. Stone had a video consultation in 2 hours. Fine. Coffee shop on Main Street, 1 hour. The cafe was nearly empty when I arrived. Jonah sat in a corner booth looking significantly more disheveled than I remembered. His designer watch was conspicuously absent. You look well, he said, as I slid into the seat across from him. The surprise in his voice was almost worth the extra time I'd spent on my appearance. You look terrible. I ordered a latte from the hovering waitress. Where's Claire? He flinched. We're taking a break. Trouble in paradise already? It's only been 3 weeks. Can we not? He rubbed his face. The hospital's in serious trouble, Avery. They're bringing in some hotshot consultant, Dr. Stone, but until then, we're all facing cuts. I sipped my coffee to hide my smile. Sounds serious. It is. Look, I know you have no reason to help me, but you're right. I don't. Think of the kids. His voice rose slightly, drawing attention from nearby tables. This affects their future too. College funds, inheritance. Their college funds are secure, I cut in. I made sure of that years ago. He blinked. What do you mean? I mean, I'm not the financial idiot you always assumed I was. I set down my cup. The kids are taken care of. The house is paid for. Your problems are your own. How? His face reddened. Where did you get the money? Mom? Gary's voice interrupted us. He stood by our table, still in his baseball uniform, looking between us uncertainly. Everything okay? Perfect timing, honey. I stood up. Your father was just leaving. Gary, wait. Jonah reached for our son's arm, but Gary stepped back. Save it, Dad. I heard about Claire dumping you for that farmer rep. He turned to me. Practice ended early. Need a ride home? I gathered my purse, leaving Jonah staring at his cooling coffee. Outside, Gary held the umbrella over us both. Claire left him. I asked as we walked to the car. Yeah. Audrey heard from her friend who works at the hospital. Apparently Dad's not such a great catch now that his department's tanking. Back home, I found Audrey in my office staring at Dr. Stone's website. Mum, they posted the consultation schedule for Dad's hospital. She pointed to the screen. You're meeting with the board next week. Virtually, I reminded her, but eventually they'll want to meet in person. She spun in my chair. What are you going to do? I'm going to do my job. I perched on the desk edge. Dr. Stone is going to review their cases, analyze their procedures, and make recommendations to save their departments. Including Dad's, including your father's, I smiled. Though my recommendation might be that his department needs new leadership. Savage, Gary called from the doorway. But won't he lose everything? He'll lose what he deserves to lose. I stood up, straightening my blazer. Now, who's hungry? I'm thinking pizza. Later that night, Elena called. Jonah cornered me at the grocery store, she said without preamble. He's desperate to figure out how you're managing so well. What did you tell him? That maybe he should have paid more attention to his wife instead of his secretary. She paused. The board's talking about Dr. Stone non-stop. They're calling you their last hope. I logged into my email, scanning the latest hospital reports. Their problems go deeper than they realize. The entire management structure needs an overhaul. And Jonah will be treated like any other department head. I opened his department's file. Though his numbers are particularly troubling. Avery, Elena's voice softened, are you sure you can stay objective about this? Watch me. After hanging up, I found both kids in the living room, heads bent over their phones. Dad's texting again, Audrey announced. He wants to know if we've noticed anything different about you lately. If you've been acting strange. What did you say? I told him you seem happier than ever, she grinned, which is true. He's getting desperate, Gary added. Asked if you'd mentioned any new friends or jobs. I sat between them on the couch. You know this might get messy when the truth comes out. Mom, Audrey took my hand. It's already messy, but for once you're the one in control. Yeah, Gary agreed. And honestly, it's pretty cool watching Dad squirm. I squeezed their hands, thinking of next week's board meeting. Soon, Dr. Stone would begin dismantling the hierarchy that had protected men like Jonah for years. And I would enjoy every minute of it. Dr. Stone, your recommendations are quite radical. The hospital board chairman's face filled my screen, his expression a mix of concern and admiration. Particularly regarding the cardiology department. Radical problems require radical solutions, I replied, adjusting my webcam. Dr. Jonah's leadership has cost the hospital millions in inefficiencies and questionable procedures. A new window popped up on my screen, Dorian Mann requesting to join the call. I accepted, keeping my expression neutral as his familiar face appeared. Sorry I'm late, he said. I've been reviewing Dr. Stone's proposals and I have to say they're brilliant. The gala next month would be the perfect venue to present these changes. My heart skipped. The gala? Yes, the annual Medical Excellence Awards. The chairman nodded enthusiastically. Dr. Stone, we insist you attend in person. Your presence would add significant weight to these recommendations. Before I could decline, Dorian jumped in. I've already taken the liberty of nominating you for innovation in healthcare management. The committee was quite impressed. My phone buzzed. Eleanor's text read, It's time. You can't hide forever. I'll consider it, I said carefully. Please send the details. After ending the call, I sat back in my chair, mind racing. The door creaked open and Audrey slipped in. Mom, Dad's downstairs. What? I stood up quickly. Why? He looks awful, she wrung her hands. Gary let him in. He's crying. I found Jonah in our living room, head in his hands. Gary hovered nearby, looking uncomfortable. They're going to fire me, Jonah said without looking up. This consultant, Dr. Stone, the recommendations just came through. My whole department is being restructured. That's not my problem, I said, but my voice wavered slightly. He finally looked up, eyes red. Please, Avery. You always knew how to fix things. Help me figure this out. Like you helped me when I wanted to go back to school. The words shot out before I could stop them. Or when I suggested improvements to your practice billing system. I was wrong, he whispered. I was so wrong about everything. Gary stepped forward. Mom, maybe… No, I cut him off. Your father made his choices. Now he's facing the consequences. The consequences, Jonah stood up. I'm about to lose everything, my practice, my reputation. Your secretary. I couldn't resist. He deflated. Claire's engaged to someone else now. It's been barely 2 months and she's… Calm as a bitch, isn't it? Audrey appeared in the doorway, arms crossed. Language, I said automatically, then turned back to Jonah. You need to leave. Wait. He pulled out his phone. Look at these recommendations. This Dr. Stone, they're ruthless but brilliant. If I could just meet them, explain my side. I glanced at the familiar document on his screen. My own words condemning his years of mismanagement. My phone rang displaying Elena's name. I need to take this. In my office, Elena didn't waste time. The gala invitation just hit my inbox. Dorian Mann is determined to have Dr. Stone there. I know. I sank into my chair. Jonah's downstairs right now begging for help. Oh, this is perfect. I could hear her grinning. Walk into that gala like the queen you are, accept that award and watch his face when… Mom, Gary appeared in the doorway. Dad's still here. He's talking about selling his car to keep the practice afloat. Eleanor heard him. Don't you dare feel sorry for him, Avery. I ended the call and returned to the living room. Jonah had pulled out more papers, spreading them across the coffee table. Look at these numbers, he was telling our children. If I can just prove to Dr. Stone that my department is worth saving. By fudging the figures? I picked up one of the sheets. Like you did last quarter. He froze. How did you… Get out, Jonah. I gathered the papers. And stop trying to involve our children in your professional failures. After he left, both kids stared at me. You're going to that gala, right? Audrey asked. You have to. It's time, Mom, Gary added. Show them all who you really are. My phone buzzed again. An email from Dorian Mann. Dr. Stone, I've taken the liberty of booking your hotel suite for the gala weekend. The awards committee is particularly excited about your work on hospital restructuring. Your presence would mean everything to the medical community. I looked at my children's eager faces, then at the family photo still hanging on the wall, taken years ago when I was just Jonah's supportive wife. Elena, I called her back. Book yourself a room for the gala weekend. I'm going to need my best friend there. Finally, she exclaimed. What made you decide? I watched Gary picking up Jonah's scattered papers, Audrey already scrolling through formal dress websites on her phone. Because it's time for Dr. Stone to step into the light, I said, and for Avery to step out of the shadows. The medical community won't know what hit them, Elena laughed. Neither would Jonah. The hotel ballroom sparkled with crystal chandeliers and medical elite. I adjusted my midnight blue gown, touching the name tag that read, Dr. Ava Stone for reassurance. Stop fidgeting, Elena whispered beside me. You look amazing. I see him. I nodded toward the bar where Jonah stood with other department heads, his rented tuxedo slightly ill-fitting. He has no idea I'm here. Ladies and gentlemen, Dorian Mann's voice boomed through the speakers. Please take your seats for dinner. We found our table near the podium. My hands shook slightly as I unfolded my napkin. Dr. Stone, a woman approached our table. I'm Autumn Wolfe from Medical Weekly. Would you mind if I asked you a few questions later? After the awards, I promised, watching Jonah being seated 3 tables away. Dorian took the stage, his silver hair catching the spotlight. Tonight, we honor those who have transformed modern medicine. But first, let me introduce our keynote speaker, the brilliant consultant who's revolutionizing hospital management across the country, Dr. Ava Stone. The applause was thunderous. Eleanor squeezed my hand as I stood. You've got this, she whispered. I approached the podium, feeling hundreds of eyes on me. In the middle distance, I saw Jonah's face, politely attentive but unrecognizing. Thank you, Dorian. My voice carried clearly through the microphone. Before I begin, I'd like to share a story about underestimated potential. The room quieted. 23 years ago, I put my dreams on hold to support my husband through medical school. I was told to be content as just a doctor's wife. I paused, meeting Jonah's eyes directly. He told me I wouldn't understand the complexities of his work. Jonah's expression shifted from confusion to dawning horror. But what he didn't know was that I spent years studying, learning, and building something of my own. While he dismissed my little hobbies, I was earning my master's degree. While he belittled my suggestions about his practice, I was consulting for major hospitals. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Jonah half rose from his chair. My name is Dr. Ava Stone, but some of you might know me better as Avery, the former wife of Dr. Jonah from Metropolitan General. The gasps were audible. Autumn Wolf was frantically taking notes. The recommendations I've made for Metropolitan weren't born of malice, but of professional assessment. Every criticism, every suggested reform, is backed by data. I lifted my chin, including those regarding the cardiology department. This is impossible, Jonah's voice carried across the silent room. You're lying. Actually, Dorian stepped forward. Dr. Stone's credentials are impeccable. Her work has saved countless lives and millions of dollars. And now, I continued, my voice steady, I'm honored to accept this award not just for myself, but for every person who's been told they're not enough. Success is the best revenge, but competence? That's revolutionary. The standing ovation was immediate. Through tears, I saw Eleanor cheering, Autumn Wolf pushing through the crowd toward me, and Jonah slumping in his chair. Later, during dinner, Dorian raised his glass. To Dr. Stone, who proves that diamonds form under pressure. Mom? My phone buzzed with Audrey's text. You're trending on Twitter. Gary's recording the local news coverage. Jonah appeared at my table, swaying slightly. How could you do this to me? I didn't do anything to you, I replied calmly. I simply became who I always was. Dr. Stone, Autumn touched my arm. Would you comment on the gender bias in medical administration? Of course. I stood, smoothing my dress. But first, I believe my ex-husband was leaving. Security appeared silently, escorting a protesting Jonah out. Elena clinked her glass against mine. Worth waiting for? She asked. Every second. I turned to Autumn. Now, about that interview. The next hour passed in a blur of photographers, reporters, and congratulations. My phone buzzed constantly with messages from the kids. Dr. Stone, Dorian approached with a distinguished group. The board from Mayo Clinic would like to discuss a consulting opportunity. As I shook hands and exchanged cards, Elena slipped me a note. Jonah's outside, crying to anyone who'll listen. Claire just walked past him without even looking. I excused myself and stepped onto the balcony for air. The city lights sparkled below, matching the diamonds at my throat, bought with my own money, earned under my own name. Quite a night, Dorian joined me. You've caused quite a stir in the medical community. Change usually does. Your recommendations for Metropolitan? He hesitated. They'll be implemented in full, including the leadership changes. I nodded, thinking of Jonah's department. Sometimes healing requires surgery. Dr. Stone, Autumn called from the doorway. The Associated Press is on the line. I straightened my shoulders, feeling lighter than I had in years. Time to face the music. No, Dorian smiled. Time to conduct the orchestra. Inside, cameras flashed and questions flew, but all I could think was, finally, gloriously, free. Dr. Stone, how do you respond to allegations that your consulting work was motivated by personal vendetta? Autumn Wolf's microphone thrust toward my face as I tried to enter my office building. My work stands on its own merit, I replied, pushing through the crowd of reporters. The data speaks for itself. Your ex-husband claims you deliberately targeted his department, another reporter shouted. Elena appeared at my elbow, creating a path through the media circus. No more questions. Dr. Stone has appointments. Inside my office, I collapsed into my chair, watching the chaos through tinted windows. My phone rang, Audrey's face appearing on screen. Mum, have you seen the news? They're camping outside my dorm. I'm so sorry, honey. I never meant for this to affect you. Are you kidding? My roommate thinks you're a badass. She paused. But Mom, Dad's been calling non-stop. He's pretty messed up. My computer pinged with an incoming video call from Dorian. Sweetie, I need to take this. We'll talk later. Dorian's usually composed face looked strained. Avery, the board's concerned about the media attention. Your recommendations are solid, but the personal connection is irrelevant, I finished firmly. My analysis was objective and thorough. The thing is, he hesitated. Jonah's given an interview, it's not flattering. My phone buzzed again, Gary this time. Mum, Dad's on TV. It's bad. I switched on the office television. There was Jonah, looking dishevelled, speaking to a sympathetic interviewer. She orchestrated this whole thing, his voice cracked. Used inside knowledge of our family, our hospital, to destroy everything I built. Turn it off, Elena commanded, entering with coffee. You don't need to hear this. But I couldn't look away. The interviewer was showing photos now. Our wedding, hospital fundraisers, family vacations, making me look like a calculating villain. Dr. Stone, my assistant poked her head in, your daughter's here. Audrey burst through the door, still wearing her college sweatshirt. This is insane. There are reporters everywhere. What are you doing here? You should be at school. Classes got disrupted. She threw her bag down. Everyone's talking about it. Some people are saying horrible things about you. My phone lit up with texts from Gary. Dad's supporters are protesting outside the hospital. They're saying you abused your position. Eleanor grabbed the remote, muting Jonah's continuing interview. We need a strategy. Now. Mom? Audrey's voice was small. What if they're right? What if revenge wasn't worth all this? I stood up, smoothing my blazer. This isn't about revenge. This is about truth. Dr. Stone, my assistant called again. Autumn Wolfe is insisting on speaking with you. She says she has information you need to hear. I nodded. Send her in. Autumn entered, tablet in hand. You need to see this. Your ex-husband's interview. He left out some crucial details. She played a video. Claire, Jonah's former secretary, speaking to another reporter. Dr. Jonah knew about the department's problems months ago. He falsified reports, covered up mistakes. I left because I couldn't be part of it. Can we use this? Eleanor asked. Better. Autumn smiled. I've got testimonies from other hospital staff. Dr. Stone's recommendations weren't just accurate, they were necessary. My phone buzzed again. Dorian. The board's reviewed everything. We're standing behind you, Avery. Your work saved lives. Audrey hugged me suddenly. I'm proud of you, Mom. Even with all this crazy stuff. Speaking of crazy, Elena pointed to the window, look who's here. Jonah stood in the parking lot below, surrounded by reporters. Our eyes met through the glass. He wants to talk, Gary texted. Says he'll tell the truth if you'll meet with him. I looked at the faces around me, Eleanor's concern, Audrey's worry, Autumn's professional interest. Set up a press conference, I told Autumn. It's time everyone heard the whole story. Are you sure? Eleanor touched my arm. Once you do this, there's no going back. I stopped going back the day he left. I turned to Audrey. Call your brother. I want both of you there. What are you going to say? She asked. I watched Jonah being swarmed by cameras below. The truth. All of it. About his department's failures, about my qualifications, about everything. It'll destroy him, Elena warned. No, I corrected. His own actions destroyed him. I'm just bringing them to light. My phone lit up with another text from Gary. On my way. Give him hell, Mom. Autumn was already making calls. I can have everyone here in an hour. Major networks are interested. I looked around my office. At the degrees I'd earned in secret. The awards I'd won as Dr. Stone. The life I'd built from the ashes of my marriage. 1 hour, I agreed. Let's end this story properly. Eleanor squeezed my hand. Ready to face the music? I thought of all the times I'd stayed quiet, played small, been invisible. No more hiding, I said. It's time for the whole world to meet the real Dr. Stone. Outside, cameras flashed and reporters waited. But for the first time since this storm began, I felt completely calm. The truth was my shield, and I was ready to use it. The conference room buzzed with tension as cameras rolled. Jonah sat across the table, his lawyer whispering urgently in his ear. Gary and Audrey flanked me like protective bodyguards. "Thank you all for coming," I began, my voice steady. "Recent events have raised questions about my professional integrity and motivations. Today, we'll address them all." Autumn Wolf leaned forward with her recorder. "Dr. Stone, would you respond to allegations of personal bias?" "Actually," Jonah interrupted, standing suddenly, "I'd like to speak first." The room fell silent. My children tensed beside me. 23 years ago, he said, his voice rough, I married an incredible woman. She put me through medical school, raised our children, supported my career, and He swallowed hard. I made her believe she wasn't enough. "Dad," Gary whispered, but I touched his arm, signaling him to wait. "When the board hired Dr. Stone, Avery, to evaluate our hospital, I didn't know it was her. But looking at these recommendations now..." He lifted a thick folder. "Every criticism is valid. Every suggestion for improvement is spot on. I wasn't just a bad husband. I was a negligent department head." Cameras clicked rapidly. Autumn scribbled notes. The reports I altered, the procedures I pushed through. Jonah looked directly at me. "You knew about all of it, didn't you?" "I did my research," I replied carefully, "as Dr. Stone always does." "The thing is," he continued, "she could have destroyed me completely, could have exposed everything at once. Instead, she gave our department a chance to reform, to do better." He laughed bitterly. "Even taking revenge, she thought about patient care first." Elena, watching from the corner, gave me a subtle nod. "It wasn't revenge," I said, standing to face him. "It was justice. For every suggestion you dismissed, every idea you belittled, every time you made me feel small, I built something bigger, something that helps people." "Mom," Audrey touched my hand, tears in her eyes. "The hospital board has reviewed all materials," I continued, addressing the reporters now. "Dr. Stone's consulting firm will continue working with Metropolitan General, implementing necessary changes, including new leadership for the cardiology department." "You're firing me?" Jonah asked quietly. "No. You're being offered a position as a staff physician under new management. Your surgical skills were never in question. Your leadership was." The reporters erupted with questions. Through the chaos, Jonah stepped around the table until he stood before me. "I'm sorry," he said, voice cracking, "not for losing my position or for the public humiliation. I'm sorry for not seeing you, really seeing you, all those years." "Dad's crying," Gary muttered. "I've never seen him cry." "Avery," Jonah continued, "you were never just my wife. You were always meant for more." I was too threatened to admit it. Autumn stood up. "Dr. Stone, what happens now?" I looked at my children's faces, at Eleanor's proud smile, at Jonah's tear-stained cheeks. "Now we heal. Metropolitan General will implement reforms. Dr. Jonah will continue saving lives, under proper supervision. And I'll keep doing what I do best, fixing broken systems." "And us?" Jonah asked softly. "There is no us anymore." I straightened my shoulders. "But there can be peace, for the kids' sake." "Speaking of kids," Gary stepped forward, "we have something to say." Audrey joined him. "We've watched both our parents these past months. One tried to hide mistakes and blame others. The other built something amazing and owned her truth. We choose truth," Gary finished. "We choose Mom." The press conference ended shortly after, but Jonah lingered as the reporters filed out. "Claire called," he said. "Wanted to apologize for the mess. I told her you were the best thing that ever happened to me, and I was too blind to see it." "Water under the bridge," I replied, gathering my papers. "The thing is..." He hesitated. "I need your help. Not as my ex-wife, but as Dr. Stone. Help me become better at my job. Please." I studied his face, the familiar wrinkles, the new humility in his eyes. "Professional consultation only. My standard rates apply." "Thank you." He turned to our children. "I'm sorry I disappointed you both. I'd like to earn back your respect if you'll let me. Audrey hugged him briefly. Start by accepting Mom's brilliance, really accepting it. Already have, he smiled sadly. The whole medical community has. After he left, Elena brought me coffee. You okay? Better than okay. I watched through the window as Jonah spoke with his lawyer. For the first time in forever, everything's exactly as it should be. Mom? Gary showed me his phone. You're trending again. But this time they're calling you both brave and brilliant. Imagine that, I smiled. A woman can be both. Autumn poked her head back in. Dr. Stone, Mayo Clinic is still waiting for your answer about that consulting offer. I looked at my children, my best friend, my new life stretching out before me. Tell them I'll review their proposal. Right after I take my kids to dinner. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's living your truth, out loud and unapologetically, while those who once diminished you watch you soar. Dr. Stone, your next appointment is here, my assistant called through the intercom. I closed the Mayo Clinic proposal on my desk and smoothed my blazer. Send them in. The door opened, revealing Jonah, clean-shaven, properly dressed, holding a thick folder, different from the broken man at the press conference 3 weeks ago. Thank you for seeing me, he said, taking a seat. I've prepared a complete overview of my surgical outcomes for your review. Professional and thorough, I noted, accepting the folder. I'm impressed. I learned from the best. He managed a small smile. The new department head is implementing your recommendations. It's humbling, being supervised by someone younger. A knock interrupted us. Audrey burst in, her college textbook clutched to her chest. Mom. Oh, hi, Dad. Come in, honey. I waved her forward. Your father and I were just finishing up. Actually, she hesitated, I wanted to talk to both of you. I'm changing my major to healthcare administration. Jonah's eyebrows shot up. But you were set on art history. Yeah, well, watching Mom build something amazing made me realize what I really want. She turned to me. Would Dr. Stone consider an intern? My phone buzzed. Eleanor's text read, Turn on the news now. I grabbed the remote, flicking on the office TV. A familiar face filled the screen, Claire speaking at a podium. As the new hospital compliance officer, she was saying, I'm committed to maintaining the high standards set by Dr. Stone's consultancy. Jonah let out a surprised laugh. She got the job? After everything? She was qualified, I said simply. Personal history doesn't negate professional capability. You taught me that. Mom! Gary appeared in the doorway still in his baseball uniform. Did you see? They're using your reforms as a model for other hospitals. I looked at my family gathered in my office, not broken, just reorganized. Different, but maybe better. Dr. Stone, my assistant called again. Dorian Mann is on line 1. The medical conference committee wants to know if you'll deliver the keynote address. Audrey's eyes lit up. Can I help prepare your presentation? Actually, I smiled, I think it's time for Dr. Stone to share the spotlight. Jonah, your research on minimally invasive procedures could make an excellent addition. He blinked in surprise. You've read my research. I read everything that crosses my desk. Your methods are innovative, even if your management wasn't. Speaking of management, Gary pulled out his phone. Elena's downstairs with the contract for the new consulting firm. Stone and Associates. Partners, I corrected. Stone and Partners, because success isn't a solo achievement. Jonah stood, gathering his papers. I should go. Thank you for everything. Dad. Wait, Audrey called. We're getting dinner. Want to join us? As a family? He looked at me questioningly. I nodded. First, I said, I need you all to understand something. What happened between your father and me? The hurt, the betrayal, the secrets. That's over. But what we build now, that's up to us. No more lies, Gary asked. No more hiding, Jonah agreed. My assistant appeared one last time. Dr. Stone, they're ready for your video consultation with London General. Actually, I smiled, tell them we'll reschedule. I'm having dinner with my family. Later, at our favourite Italian restaurant, Eleanor joined us with the contracts. Audrey sketched logos on her napkin, while Gary debated medical ethics with Jonah. "You know," Eleanor whispered, "this isn't how revenge usually looks." "Maybe revenge was never the point," I replied, watching my family, broken but healing, separate but connected. Maybe it was about becoming who we were always meant to be. "Dr. Stone," a voice called from across the restaurant. Autumn Wolfe approached our table, notebook in hand. "Any comment on the national adoption of your hospital reforms?" I looked at my children's proud faces, at Jonah's quiet acceptance, at Eleanor's knowing smile. Actually, yes. Success isn't about destroying what's broken. It's about building something better from the pieces. "Mom," Audrey touched my arm, "your phone's buzzing. Mayo Clinic again." "Let it go to voicemail," I said. "Right now, I'm not Dr. Stone. I'm just Avery, having dinner with my family." "No," Jonah spoke up. "You're both. You always were. We just didn't see it." "To Dr. Stone," Gary raised his water glass. "And to Mom, the same amazing woman finally seen." As glasses clinked and conversation flowed, I realized something profound. The greatest victory wasn't in proving Jonah wrong or becoming Dr. Stone. It was in finally, completely becoming myself. Mother, professional, survivor, pioneer. And that was better than revenge could ever be. "So," Audrey grinned, pulling out her laptop. "About that internship, the future stretched before us, not perfect, but real. Not what I'd planned, but somehow exactly right. Because sometimes the happy ending isn't about getting even. It's about getting free."
The deed transfer papers felt like ice in my hands. I stood frozen in my kitchen, staring at the partially signed document that would strip away everything I'd worked for. My name is Paige, and this was supposed to be a perfect Thanksgiving dinner, not the day I discovered my family's betrayal. "Paige, honey, where are those serving platters you promised?" My mother's voice snapped me back to reality. I quickly shoved the papers back into the drawer, my hands trembling. "Coming, Mom," I called back, forcing cheerfulness into my voice. I grabbed the antique platters I'd collected over years of antiquing, another passion my family dismissed as frivolous. The aroma of roasting turkey filled my lovingly renovated Victorian home. I'd spent 3 years turning this historic property into a showpiece, doing most of the work myself. Every brass fixture, every restored hardwood floor, every carefully chosen paint color reflected my vision. "This place still needs work," my brother Jarrett announced, running his finger along my newly installed crown molding as I passed him with the platters. "You should have hired professionals." I bit my tongue. The professionals quoted me triple what I spent doing it myself. "That's because they know what they're doing," my father chimed in, not looking up from his phone. "Speaking of which, Jarrett just closed another $1 million deal this morning." "That's wonderful," I managed, setting down the platters with more force than necessary. A familiar ache settled in my chest, the same one I'd felt since childhood, whenever Jarrett's achievements overshadowed my existence. My Aunt Bonnie caught my eye from across the room and gave me a sympathetic smile. She'd always been different from the rest, actually seeing me for who I was. "Paige, dear," my mother called from the kitchen, "why don't you let Jarrett carve the turkey? He has such steady hands." "It's my house, Mom. I'll carve my own turkey." The words came out sharper than intended. Now, my father intervened, finally looking up. "No need to get defensive. We're just trying to help." I forced a smile and headed to the kitchen to check on the sides. As I stirred the gravy, I overheard whispered conversations from the dining room. "Papers are ready. For her own good." Jarrett knows best. My hand tightened around the wooden spoon. The deed transfer papers in my drawer suddenly made horrible sense. They weren't just planning to take my house. They'd already set the wheels in motion. "Need any help?" Bonnie appeared beside me, her voice low. "You look like you've seen a ghost." "I found something," I whispered, glancing over my shoulder. "In my drawer. They're trying to—" "Dinner's getting cold," my mother announced, sweeping into the kitchen. "Paige, stop fussing with the gravy. It's fine." Throughout dinner, I watched my family with new eyes. Every compliment about my cooking came with a subtle dig. Every mention of my renovation choices carried an undercurrent of criticism. Jarrett sat at the head of my table, a position he'd simply assumed, smirking between bites of turkey. "You know," he said, swirling his wine, "this place has so much potential. The market's hot right now. A few professional upgrades, the right management." He trailed off meaningfully. My mother beamed. "You've always had such a good head for business, dear." I stood abruptly, my chair scraping against the floor. "Anyone want coffee? I just got a new French press." "Waste of money," my father muttered. "Regular coffee maker works fine." In the kitchen, I gripped the counter until my knuckles turned white. Through the serving window, I could see them all. My mother's satisfied smile, my father's dismissive glances, Jarrett's calculated observation of my home. My home, like it was already his. Only Bonnie looked concerned, her eyes meeting mine with worry. She knew something was wrong. She'd always known how they treated me, but this was different. This wasn't just their usual dismissal of my achievements. This was theft wrapped in family obligation. The coffee maker gurgled, and I made a decision. They thought I was naive, incapable, someone to be managed. They had no idea what I was capable of. I'd play along, serve their coffee, smile at their condescension. But I'd also find out exactly what they were planning. "Coffee's ready," I called out, my voice steady despite the rage building inside me. As I arranged the cups on my grandmother's silver tray, another piece they probably planned to manage for me, I made a silent promise to myself. They wanted to play games? Fine. But they were about to learn that their supposedly helpless daughter had learned a few tricks of her own. While serving coffee, I casually placed my phone on the sideboard, voice recorder running. Years of being dismissed had taught me to document everything. Tonight, that habit would prove invaluable. "Paige, sweetheart," my mother started, stirring her coffee with practiced precision. "We've been thinking about your future." "Oh?" I kept my voice light, innocent. "What about it?" Jarrett leaned forward, all business. "You've done adequate work here, sis. But this property has serious investment potential, the kind that requires experienced management." "I've managed just fine," I said, noting how my father's eyes narrowed at my defiance. "Honey," my mother interjected, "we're just concerned. A single woman, all alone in this big house." I set down my coffee cup carefully. "I'm not alone. I have great neighbors, friends, a successful career." "A middle management position," Jarrett scoffed. "Hardly the kind of success this family is known for." My father nodded sagely. "Your brother's right. We've always been leaders, innovators. Speaking of which, Jarrett, tell them about your new development project." As Jarrett launched into another self-congratulatory monologue, I slipped away to the kitchen, ostensibly to fetch dessert. Instead, I placed another phone behind the cookie jar, recording. Then I grabbed my tablet from the counter, appearing to check a recipe while actually starting its recording function before returning it to its stand. "Pie's almost ready," I called out, buying time to position my devices. "Remember when Paige tried to start that interior design business?" I heard my mother say, her voice carrying from the dining room. "Thank goodness we talked her out of that foolishness." "Best thing we ever did," my father agreed. "She would have bankrupted herself in months." I gripped the edge of the counter, breathing deeply. That foolishness had been my dream, one they'd crushed with constant criticism and dire predictions until I'd given up. Never again. Returning with the pie, I found Jarrett examining my living room's restored fireplace. "This craftsmanship is amateur at best," he declared. "We'll need to redo all of this." "We?" I asked innocently. "The contractors I work with," he said smoothly. "They'll fix everything up once the transfer is complete." I nearly dropped the pie. They were being so blatant about it now, so confident in their control over me, that they didn't even try to hide their plans. "Transfer?" I kept my voice steady. "Don't worry about the details, dear," my mother soothed. "Jarrett will handle everything." "Like he always does," my father added proudly. "Bonnie, who'd been quietly observing, spoke up. Paige has done amazing work here. This house is her achievement. An achievement that needs proper direction, Jarrett countered. Face it, sis, you're out of your depth. This property deserves professional management. I served the pie with trembling hands, but not from fear, from rage. Each condescending comment, each dismissive glance, fueled my determination. You know what? I said, forcing a smile. You might be right. I should learn more about property management. In fact, I've been reading up on real estate law lately. Oh, honey, my mother laughed. Leave that to the professionals. You focus on keeping this place tidy for now. As if I were nothing more than a caretaker in my own home. The evening wore on, and I played my part perfectly. The dutiful daughter, nodding at their wisdom, accepting their criticism. All while my devices captured every damning word. Finally, as they prepared to leave, Jarrett pulled me aside. Don't worry, sis. I'll make sure you're taken care of when everything's settled. That's so thoughtful, I replied, watching him search my face for any sign of suspicion and finding none. After they left, Bonnie lingered. You're planning something, she said quietly. I hugged her tightly. Thank you for always seeing me. Be careful, she warned, but give them hell. Alone at last, I collected my phones and tablet, hands steady now with purpose. Playing back the recordings, I heard their true colors in high definition, their plans to manipulate me, their disdain for my achievements, their certainty that I was too naive to stop them. I opened my laptop and began typing an email to Ethan, my mentor in real estate development. He'd been teaching me the business for months, though my family didn't know it. They thought I was taking cooking classes. Meeting tomorrow? I typed. I have something you need to hear. Their mistake wasn't in underestimating me. Their mistake was in thinking I was still the compliant daughter who would roll over and accept their decisions. They had no idea what I was capable of, and they were about to find out. The next morning, I sat in Ethan's office, my recordings queued up on my laptop. His corner office overlooked the city skyline, a view earned through decades of smart real estate investments. Play them, he said, leaning back in his chair. I hit play, and my family's voices filled the room. With each passing minute, Ethan's expression darkened. Your mother just called you financially illiterate, he noted, shaking his head. The same woman whose daughter I've been mentoring in property development for the past year. Keep listening, I said grimly. Jarrett's voice came through clearly. Once the transfer's complete, we'll leverage the property for the new development. Paige won't understand the complexities, but that's why we're handling everything. Ethan stopped the recording. They're planning to use your house as collateral for one of your brother's projects? That's not even the worst part. I played another clip. My father's voice. The trust fund should have gone to Jarrett in the first place. This fixes that mistake. The trust fund? Ethan sat up straighter. The one your grandmother left specifically to you? The very same. They've been trying to access it for years, but it's ironclad until I'm 40. I pulled out the deed transfer papers I'd found. This is their solution. If Jarrett owns my house, he controls the trust fund's collateral, Ethan finished. Damn! There's more. I played the final recording, where my mother and Jarrett discussed their plans in detail. We'll need to move quickly, Jarrett was saying, before she realizes what's happening. I've already lined up buyers for a quick flip once we renovate. My clever boy, my mother cooed, always thinking ahead. Ethan's face had turned to stone. They're not just trying to take your house. They're trying to steal your entire financial future. I know. I pulled out another folder. But here's what they don't know. I've been documenting everything for months. Every dismissive comment, every attempt to undermine me. And this, I handed him a stack of papers. This is what I've really been working on. Ethan scanned the documents, his eyes widening. You've been buying up properties around your house? Under an LLC? 3 properties, all strategic locations. I allowed myself a small smile. Jarrett's not the only one who can play the real estate game. And they have no idea? They think I'm taking cooking classes. I laughed bitterly. Because what else would their helpless daughter be doing with her time? Ethan studied the property maps. These locations, you're thinking what I'm thinking? Historic district development, boutique shops, high-end restaurants, the kind of project that would triple property values in the area. Including your house. Ethan nodded appreciatively. Which you own free and clear. Exactly. But I need your help. I leaned forward. I want to announce the development at the family dinner next week, the one where they're planning to spring their deed transfer plan on me. You want to beat them at their own game. Ethan's eyes sparkled. Count me in, but we'll need to move fast. How much capital do you have access to? I pulled out my bank statements. Everything I've saved for the past 5 years. Plus, I've already secured preliminary funding from 3 investors. Make that 4, Ethan said firmly. I want in on this. We spent the next hour planning, strategizing. By the time I left his office, we had a solid plan and a presentation that would leave my family speechless. My phone buzzed as I reached my car. A text from my mother. Family dinner next Friday. Important matters to discuss. Wear something nice. I could almost hear the condescension in her words. Another buzz. Jarrett has wonderful news to share. I'm sure he does, I thought, typing back a cheerful acceptance. One more text came through, this time from Bonnie. Just heard about Friday. You okay? Better than okay, I replied, but I need your help with something. Name it, came her immediate response. I smiled as I drove home. My family thought they had everything planned perfectly. They thought their dutiful daughter would sit quietly while they dismantled her life. They were about to learn how wrong they were. Back home, I stood in my kitchen, running my hand along the countertop I'd installed myself. Every inch of this house represented my hard work, my vision, my independence. And in 1 week, I would show them exactly what their helpless daughter was capable of. Let them plan their ambush. I had plans of my own. The week before the family dinner, I met Bonnie at a quiet cafe across town. Away from prying eyes and familiar faces, I laid out my plan. They're going to lose their minds, Bonnie said, examining the development proposals. Especially Jarrett. He's been trying to break into historic district development for years. I know. I sipped my coffee. He's been rejected 3 times by the Preservation Board, while you've been quietly building relationships with them through your renovation work, Bonnie finished, understanding dawning on her face. You clever girl. My phone buzzed. Another text from my mother. Jarrett's bringing his real estate lawyer on Friday, just to handle some paperwork, nothing to worry about. Look at this. I showed Bonnie the message. They're not even trying to hide it anymore. Because they think you're too naive to understand what's happening. Bonnie's face hardened. Your mother called me yesterday, asking me to help convince you if you got difficult about their plans. And what did you say? I told her I'd do whatever was best for you. Bonnie's eyes twinkled. I just didn't specify what I thought that was. My phone rang. Ethan. The investors are in, he said without preamble. All 4 signed this morning. We're fully funded. Perfect timing. I checked my watch. The Preservation Board meeting starts in an hour. Need me there? No, I've got this one, but be ready for Friday. Wouldn't miss it for the world. At the Preservation Board meeting, I presented my vision for the historic district. The board members, who'd rejected Jarrett's plans for modern high-rises multiple times, nodded approvingly at my proposals for restoration-focused development. Ms. Page, the board chairman said, this is exactly the kind of thoughtful development we've been hoping to see. Your work on your own home shows you understand the value of preserving our architectural heritage. Thank you, sir. I handed over the final paperwork. With your approval, we can begin next month. Consider it approved. He stamped the documents. Welcome to the Historic District business community. As I left the meeting, another text arrived, from Jarrett this time. Hope you're ready for some exciting changes, sis. Friday's going to be a big day. I forwarded it to Bonnie, who responded immediately. The audacity! Want me to bring anything Friday? Just your phone, I replied. Set to record. The next few days passed in a blur of preparation. I reviewed contracts, finalized permits, and prepared my presentation. Ethan's team created professional renderings of the development plans, showing how my properties would transform the neighborhood while preserving its historic character. Thursday night, my mother called. Darling, I hope you're not planning to cook tomorrow. I'm having it catered. In my house? I kept my voice neutral. Well, yes. We want everything to be perfect for the big announcement. Jarrett has so much planned. I'm sure he does. I watched my computer screen as the final permits were approved online. Don't worry, Mom. Everything will be perfect. Friday morning, I met with Ethan one last time. The press release is ready, he said, showing me the draft. As soon as you give the signal tomorrow, it goes live. Your family's reactions will be immortalized in real estate history. Perfect! I checked my presentation again. And the investors? All joining by video call when you're ready. They're quite excited to meet the woman who's about to transform the historic district. I smiled, remembering Jarrett's failed attempts to woo these same investors. One last thing. Did you get the documents I asked for? Ethan patted his briefcase. All here. Financial records, trust fund details, everything showing their attempts to access your money, plus records of every property deal Jarrett's botched in the last 5 years. You're the best, Ethan. Just doing my part to support a brilliant investor. He squeezed my shoulder. Show them who you really are. Back home, I walked through my house one last time before the evening's events. Every restored molding, every carefully chosen fixture reminded me of what I'd built and what they'd tried to take. My phone buzzed with a final text from Bonnie. Ready to raise hell? I looked at my dining room, set for battle rather than dinner, my laptop ready to reveal truths they never saw coming. More than ready, I texted back. Time to show them exactly who they've been underestimating. The caterers would arrive soon, followed by my family, their lawyer, and their plans to take everything I'd built. They thought they were staging an intervention. Instead, they were walking into an ambush of their own making. The caterers arrived first, transforming my dining room into what looked like a corporate lunch meeting. My mother followed, swooping in to rearrange everything they'd set up. Darling, you look tense, she said, adjusting a flower arrangement. Here, let me fix your hair. I stepped back. My hair is fine, Mom. Just trying to help you look professional. She pursed her lips. Jarrett's bringing some important people. I'm aware. I smoothed my blazer, tailored, expensive, and definitely not what she'd expected me to wear. Is that his lawyer's car pulling up? Through the window, I watched Jarrett escort a stern-looking man in an expensive suit up my walkway. My father arrived simultaneously, carrying a briefcase I'd never seen before. Paige! Jarrett called out as they entered. Meet Marcus, my attorney. He's here to help with some paperwork. Pleasure, I said, shaking his hand firmly. I hope you don't mind, but I took the liberty of inviting my own attorney. She'll be joining us by video call. The room went silent. My mother's hand froze mid-arrangement. Your attorney? My father asked slowly. Of course, I smiled pleasantly. For the paperwork. Jarrett laughed, but I caught the nervous edge in it. Sis, that's really not necessary. Marcus can handle everything. I'm sure he can, but I prefer having my own representation. I checked my phone. Ah, Bonnie's here. My aunt entered, giving me a quick wink as she hugged everyone hello. She positioned herself perfectly, right where she could see both my laptop screen and the entire family. Well, my mother clapped her hands. Shall we eat first? The caterers have prepared a lovely meal. Actually, Jarrett cut in, we should handle business first. Marcus has another appointment. Perfect, I said, opening my laptop. I have some business to discuss too. My father frowned. Paige, this is serious family business. Maybe we should... Oh, I know exactly how serious this is. I turned on the projector I'd set up earlier. In fact, I've prepared a presentation. A presentation? My mother laughed nervously. Honey, this isn't a business meeting. Isn't it? I connected my laptop to the projector. Because I see a lawyer, paperwork, and a catered meal. Seems very businesslike to me. Jarrett stepped forward, his usual confidence wavering slightly. Sis, we're just trying to help you make smart decisions about your property. My property, I repeated, emphasizing each word. Interesting choice of words. Speaking of which, I pressed a button, and documents filled the screen. Would anyone like to explain these? The deed transfer papers I'd found appeared, along with emails between my family members discussing their plans. Where did you get those? My father demanded. Does it matter? What matters is that while you were planning to take my house, I was planning something else entirely. I clicked again, and new documents appeared. My development plans, permits, and investor agreements. What is this? Jarrett stepped closer to the screen, his face paling. This, I said calmly, is the Historic District Restoration Project. 4 properties, 12 boutique businesses, and projected returns that would make your investors weep. Oh, and it's fully funded and approved by the Preservation Board. That's impossible, Jarrett sputtered. The board never approves major development in the historic district. They do when the developer has a proven track record of historical preservation. I pulled up photos of my home renovation. Like, say, someone who spent 3 years restoring a Victorian mansion? My mother sank into a chair. But you don't know anything about real estate development. Actually, a new voice joined in as my laptop chimed with an incoming video call. She knows quite a bit. Ethan's face appeared on screen, along with 3 other investors. Hello, everyone, he said cheerfully. Hope we're not interrupting the family dinner. We just wanted to meet the woman behind the most exciting development project this district has seen in years. The look on Jarrett's face was priceless. He knew exactly who these investors were, the same ones who'd rejected his proposals multiple times. Now, I said, turning to Marcus, I believe you had some paperwork for me to sign. The lawyer shifted uncomfortably. Perhaps we should reschedule. No need. I pulled out my own stack of documents. I have all the paperwork right here, including records of every attempt to access my trust fund without my knowledge. My father stood up abruptly. This is ridiculous. We were only trying to— Take what isn't yours, Bonnie interrupted, her phone visibly recording. Maybe we should discuss that part next. The room fell silent, except for the gentle hum of the projector, displaying my triumph for all to see. And we weren't even halfway through dinner. Let's review exactly what was supposed to happen tonight, I said, clicking to the next slide. You were going to present me with transfer papers, convince me it was for my own good, and take control of my house, and by extension, my trust fund. We were protecting you, my mother protested. From what? Success? I played one of the recordings from Thanksgiving. Jarrett's voice filled the room. Once we get control, we'll leverage everything for the new development. She'll thank us later. You recorded us? My father's face reddened. That's completely legal in this state, I cut in. One-party consent. I learned that in those cooking classes I've been taking. Jarrett paced the room, his confident facade cracking. Those properties you bought, that's why the sellers wouldn't return my calls. They preferred working with someone who respected the historical value of their buildings. I nodded to Ethan on the screen. Isn't that right? Indeed, Ethan smiled. Paige's restoration work on her home impressed the entire preservation community. Her vision for the district aligned perfectly with what we've been hoping to see. My mother turned to Marcus. Can she do this? Can she just take over the district like this? The lawyer cleared his throat. Everything appears to be legally sound. The properties are purchased, the permits approved, and the funding secured. But what about her trust fund? My father demanded. We have a right. You have no rights to my trust fund, I interrupted, displaying the trust documents. Grandmother made that very clear. It's mine until I'm 40, and then it's still mine. Your only hope was to control my assets and force me to leverage the fund. How's that working out? Bonnie stifled a laugh as Jarrett slumped into a chair. The investors, he muttered. They're the same ones who rejected your proposals 3 times? I finished. Yes. Funny how they prefer historical preservation to modern high-rises. On screen, one of the investors spoke up. Ms. Page's project is exactly what the district needs. Traditional character with modern appeal. We're expecting significant returns. But I had plans, Jarrett protested weakly. Development deals. Like these? I displayed his failed project history. 3 bankruptcies, 2 investor lawsuits, and a reputation for destroying historical properties. Did you really think I wouldn't research my own brother? My mother burst into tears. We were trying to help. You're all alone in this big house. I'm not alone, Mom. I have a successful career, loyal friends, and now? I gestured to the screen. Business partners who actually respect me. Respect? My father scoffed. You've betrayed your family. No, Bonnie stood up. You betrayed her. Every time you dismissed her achievements. Every time you praised Jarrett while ignoring her success. Every time you tried to control her life because you thought she was incapable. Marcus began gathering his papers. I don't think my services will be needed tonight. Actually, I said, stay. There's one more thing. I pulled out a final document. This is a cease and desist order. If any of you attempt to interfere with my property or business dealings again, I'll be forced to take legal action. You'd sue your own family? My mother gasped. You were about to steal from your own daughter, Bonnie pointed out. Jarrett stood suddenly. This isn't over. I have connections. Sit down. Ethan's voice cut through the room. Your connections won't help. The Preservation Board has already approved our plans. Any interference would be unwise. My father grabbed his briefcase. Come on, we're leaving. But the dinner... My mother gestured at the untouched food. I think we're done here, I said firmly. Bonnie can stay. The rest of you? I'll have my lawyer contact yours about the cease and desist. They filed out, my mother crying, my father fuming, Jarrett looking shell-shocked. Marcus followed, nodding respectfully to me as he left. After they were gone, Bonnie hugged me tight. That was magnificent. The investors on screen agreed, scheduling a meeting for next week before signing off. Ethan remained. You did good, kid, he said proudly. Want me to keep an eye on Jarrett's movements? Please, he won't take this lying down. After ending the call, Bonnie and I sat amid the elaborate catering my mother had ordered. Well, Bonnie said, lifting a wine glass, shall we toast to the new queen of historic district development? I raised my glass, feeling lighter than I had in years. To family, I said with a slight smirk, and to karma. The house felt different now, not just mine, but truly mine. No more shadows of family manipulation, no more doubt about my capabilities. They'd tried to take everything from me. Instead, they'd only succeeded in showing me exactly how strong I really was. The fallout came faster than I expected. The morning after our confrontation, my phone exploded with messages from extended family members. How could you embarrass your brother like this? My Aunt Martha wrote. Your poor mother is devastated, Cousin Rachel chimed in. I ignored them all, focusing instead on the email from Ethan. Jarrett's been making calls, meeting in my office, now. When I arrived, Ethan wasn't alone. 3 members of the Preservation Board were there, looking grim. Your brother's been busy, Ethan said, gesturing for me to sit. Tell her. The board chairman cleared his throat. Mr. Jarrett has filed a formal complaint, alleging you obtained the permits through inappropriate means. Of course he has. I pulled out my phone. Would you like to hear what he really thinks about historical preservation? I played a recording from Thanksgiving. Jarrett calling the Preservation Board outdated fossils and bragging about his plans to modernize the district, whether those history nuts like it or not. The chairman's eyebrows shot up. Well, that's illuminating. I have more, I offered, including his plans to demolish 3 Victorian buildings once he gained control. That won't be necessary, another board member said quickly. We know quality work when we see it. Your brother's complaints are noted and dismissed. After they left, Ethan showed me more of Jarrett's handiwork. He's been calling investors, trying to shake their confidence, but he didn't expect this. He pulled up an article from the city's business journal. Historic District Renaissance. Local developer leads preservation-focused revival. My phone buzzed. Bonnie. Turn on the local news. Now. Ethan flipped on his office TV, just in time to see Jarrett being interviewed outside my house. My sister's project is reckless, he was saying. She doesn't have the experience. The reporter cut him off. Sources say you attempted to seize control of her property just yesterday. Care to comment on that? Jarrett's face reddened. That's a private family matter. Is it true the Preservation Board rejected your development plans 3 times? The reporter pressed on. While approving your sister's proposal unanimously? This interview is over. Jarrett stormed off camera. That was satisfying, I said, but Ethan looked concerned. He's desperate now. Desperate people make mistakes. Right on cue, my phone rang. My father. You've destroyed your brother's reputation, he snapped without preamble. No, he did that himself. I just exposed it. He's had to withdraw from 3 development deals because of you. Investors are pulling out. Because they've finally seen who he really is? That's not my problem. Fix this, he demanded. Release a statement supporting him. Say it was all a misunderstanding. Or what? Or you'll regret it. Family can be a powerful enemy, Paige. Is that a threat, Dad? It's a reality check. You think you can survive in this business without family connections? I laughed. I already have. And unlike Jarrett, I did it honestly. You ungrateful? Goodbye, Dad. Have your lawyer contact mine if you have anything else to say. I hung up to find Ethan grinning. Your father just accidentally gave us a gift. How so? That was basically a recorded threat. Perfect for our restraining order application. My phone buzzed again. My mother this time, but with a text. We raised you better than this. Your grandmother would be ashamed. I showed Ethan the message. Would she, though? Your grandmother left you that trust fund for a reason, he reminded me. She saw something in you that your parents never did. A knock at the door interrupted us, one of our investors. Sorry to drop in, she said, but I wanted to deliver this in person. She handed me a check. We're doubling our investment. Your brother's little media stunt just proved we backed the right developer. After she left, Ethan raised an eyebrow. Still worried about family connections? No, I smiled. But I am worried about Jarrett. He won't stop. Let him try. Ethan pulled up our project plans. Every move he makes just proves why you're the better choice. Now, shall we review the construction timeline? As we worked, my phone kept buzzing with family messages, each one more desperate than the last. I turned it off. They'd had decades to see me, to appreciate me, to treat me as an equal. Instead, they'd tried to take everything I'd built. Now they were learning the hard way. The daughter they'd underestimated had become the woman they couldn't control. And I was just getting started. The grand opening of the Historic District Revival Project drew crowds beyond our expectations. Local news crews lined the streets as I cut the ribbon in front of the first completed building, a restored Victorian mansion turned boutique hotel. Ms. Page, reporters called out, how does it feel to complete Phase 1 ahead of schedule? Before I could answer, a familiar voice cut through the crowd. This is a mistake. She stole these opportunities. Jarrett pushed his way forward, looking disheveled in a wrinkled suit. My mother and father trailed behind him, trying to pull him back. Not now, my father hissed. You're making it worse. No! Jarrett shrugged them off. Everyone needs to know the truth. This was supposed to be my project. The reporter's cameras swiveled toward him, exactly what Ethan and I had anticipated might happen. Sir, one reporter asked, Aren't you the developer who tried to demolish these historic buildings? The one who lost 3 investor lawsuits? Another chimed in. That's not. I mean, Jarrett stammered. Actually, I spoke up, my voice carrying clearly through the microphone. This seems like a perfect teaching moment. Success isn't about who deserves what. It's about who puts in the work, respects the community, and builds something meaningful. The crowd applauded. Bonnie, standing beside me, squeezed my hand. You think you're so clever. My mother stepped forward. But you've torn this family apart. No, Mom. You did that when you tried to steal my home and my future. We were protecting you. From what? I gestured at the restored building behind me. From success? From independence? Look around. Everything you thought I couldn't do? I did it. And I did it better than Jarrett ever could. The Preservation Board chairman approached the microphone. If I may add, Ms. Page's work has set a new standard for historical development in our city. We've already had inquiries from other districts wanting to replicate her model. Jarrett's face contorted. This isn't over. I'll appeal the permits. No, you won't. Ethan stepped forward, holding up his phone. Because while you've been making scenes, the State Historical Society just designated this entire project as a protected development zone. Any interference would be a criminal offense. My father grabbed Jarrett's arm. Come on, son, we're leaving. That's right, I said quietly. Leave, just like you left me to fend for myself all those years. The difference is, I learned how to succeed without you. As they turned to go, my mother looked back. You'll regret pushing your family away. I'm not pushing anyone away. I'm standing my ground. When you're ready to accept that, to see me for who I really am, maybe we can talk. But not until then. They disappeared into the crowd as the reporters turned back to me. Ms. Page, what's next for the Historic District Revival? I smiled, gesturing to the row of buildings awaiting restoration. We're just getting started. Each of these properties represents a piece of our city's history, and we're going to bring them back to life, one building at a time. The interviews continued, but I was watching my family's retreat. They'd come today expecting to witness my failure. Instead, they'd been forced to face their own. Later, at the reception in the new hotel's grand ballroom, Bonnie found me by the window. Your grandmother would have loved this, she said, looking around at the carefully restored details. She always said you had her spirit. I wish she could see it. Oh, she sees it, Bonnie smiled. She saw it when she left you that trust fund. She knew exactly what you'd do with it. Ethan joined us, champagne in hand. To the most successful historic restoration project this city has seen in decades. And to family, Bonnie added, the ones who choose to lift you up, not tear you down. I looked around the ballroom, filled with investors, community members, and supporters who'd believed in my vision. This was my real family now. To new beginnings, I said, raising my glass, and to standing your ground. Through the window, I could see the lights of my house in the distance. My house, my achievement, my proof that sometimes the best revenge isn't about destroying others. It's about building something they said you never could. The Preservation Board chairman approached with another potential investor, eager to discuss future projects. As I turned to greet them, I felt completely at peace. My family had tried to write my story for me, but I'd taken back the pen. And this was just the first chapter.